Chapter 435. In short, Li Zongjio had been completely sent away, so there was no need to worry about what would happen next. Other than Li Zongjio, there shouldn't be anyone else who would commit such a suicide. Not everyone had the strength and guts to do so. Li Zongjio and the other two walked on the road. Along the way, they could see a few special envoys who were busy. After all, a person had escaped, so this person must be the most important person. Therefore, as long as they caught this assassin, they would be able to solve this case. This was the assassin who killed Yi Lantian. Although Yi Lantian wasn't a good person, he was a very important person. Now that they knew that an important person had been killed, they naturally had to work hard. If they could catch the person who killed Yi Lantian, it would be a great merit. Boss, you're really awesome. I heard that the person called Han Wuxiu seems to be the fiercest one among the special envoys. His methods are very cruel. He's a ruthless person from head to toe. I didn't expect boss to actually dare to slap him. Kuan Erasher stepped forward and said. He was full of admiration for Li Zongjio's actions. Don't even talk about slapping him. If he says another word, I'll take his head. Li Zongjio said without any trace of politeness. Lan Kuan naturally didn't believe him. It was still acceptable to beat him up and scold him. Could it be that he really killed him in front of so many people? If that was the case, even if he was an alchemist bestowed by the emperor, it wouldn't be of any use. He would be arrested and sent to prison in a matter of minutes. Boss, you're awesome. Kuan Erasher flattered. Then, he carefully took out a stone from his chest and handed it to Shueiyue as he walked. This stone was given to me by Zhao Jingxian. It's useless for a man like me to keep it. You can take it. I'll take it as a bargain for you. Shueiyue looked at the heavenly fragrance drunken moonstone that Kuan Erasher handed over, and her eyes immediately widened. She couldn't believe it. Kuan Erasher spent so much money to buy it for him. Although in the end, Kuan Erasher didn't give him any money. If it wasn't for what happened later, he would have given him money. You're giving it to me? This thing is very expensive. Shueiyue said. Just take it since I'm giving it to you. Don't be shy. Do you think I, Kuan Erasher, lack this bit of money? After saying that, Kuan Erasher stuffed the heavenly fragrance moonstone back into Shueiyu's hand. Then he quickly caught up with Li Zongjio. Boss, where are we going next? Originally, he wanted to take a look at the mysterious stone tablet of the Compassionate Travel sect, but it seemed that it was impossible to restart the auction in a short period of time. Therefore, he temporarily put this matter aside. You send Shueiyu Club to the academy. I'm going to the casino, Li Zongjio said. He turned around and walked towards the direction of the Great Pleasure Casino. Kuan Erasher didn't refuse this time, but listened to Li Zongjio's words very obediently. Okay. Shueiyu held the heavenly fragrance moonstone in her hand, and there was an indescribable feeling in her heart, but she was also a little touched. Over the years, she had received many gifts, but she had never received a gift from herself. That's right, this heavenly fragrance drunken moonstone was something that Shueiyue had taken out to auction. However, who would have thought that Lan Kuan would cause a ruckus and directly return this item to Shueiyue? Shueiyue didn't know what to say about this, but it was necessary for her to be touched. Because this heavenly fragrance intoxicating moonstone was truly worth 100 million purple yuan. Why are you smiling like a fool? Come on, let's go and eat. Lan Kuan patted Shueiyue's head. After Shueiyue received the heavenly fragrance drunken moonstone, he didn't know what she was smiling about, but this silly and adorable look was really cute. Don't hit my head, a girl's head can't be hit, I won't grow tall. Shueiyu said angrily as she held her head. It's good that you're this tall, how tall do you want to be? Li Zongjio walked towards the Great Pleasure Casino on foot. The news of Yi Lantian's death had probably spread out by now. This kind of thing absolutely couldn't be hidden, and the speed at which it spread like wildfire would be very fast. When Li Zongjio arrived at the Great Pleasure Casino, it was already close to evening. Logically speaking, it should be the time for the casino to open, but unexpectedly, the doors of the Great Pleasure Casino were tightly shut. Li Zongjio directly stepped forward and kicked the door open with a bang. After kicking the door open, as soon as he walked in, more than 10 snow-white long sabers appeared in front of him, swaying nervously. At this moment, they were as if they were facing a great enemy. "Who is it?" Li Zongjio walked in calmly and glanced at the people around him. He said indifferently, "I'm here to look for your manager." Li Zongjio said. Taifai walked out from upstairs. Standing beside Taifai was Xue Jiang, who was seriously injured by Kuan Erasure last time. However, this time, Xue Jiang's injuries seemed to have improved a lot, and compared to before, he also had a big breakthrough. After all, the accumulation of combat experience would naturally allow him to have a better breakthrough. "It's you again, what do you want? I don't have time to play with you now." Taifai was angry. What kind of tricks were these two brats playing? They actually came to cause trouble for the Great Delight Casino time and time again. If they were really forced into a corner, it wouldn't cost much to hire an assassin from the Celestial Rain Pavilion. The last bet had been a long time ago. Originally, Taifai wanted to let it go. After all, the Yi family situation was not good recently. If something happened and it was reported to the higher-ups, it wouldn't be good for Taifai. And today, he received a piece of news that made Taifai's jaw drop. Yi Lantian was dead. He was killed by someone. With Yi Lantian's death, the Yi family would definitely collapse. The 13 guards below must each have their own thoughts. Now that the tree fell, the monkeys scattered. They, who followed behind, naturally had to think of a way to protect themselves. The Great Pleasure Casino itself was a big business, so it was inevitable that enemies would come knocking. Therefore, Taifai also gathered people and at the same time, posted a notice to close the business for reorganization, telling these people that the Great Pleasure Casino would not open for business for the time being. At this moment, it was not the enemies who came, but Li Zongjio. That made Taifai even more irritated. It's fine if you two brats played some tricks and swindled some money, but now is a moment of life and death. With Yi Lantian's death, your Great Pleasure Casino will lose its backing. How long can it last? I'm here to save you. You still remember this contract, right? Li Zongjio took out the contract in his hand. This was what Kuan Erasure wanted back last time. With this, the casino's daily income would be distributed to Li Zongjio. However, as long as the Great Pleasure Casino didn't recognize this thing, it was useless for him to hold it. Even if there was a signature, they wouldn't recognize it. Chapter 436. In fact, at that time, this contract was only a delaying tactic. Although it was written clearly on the contract, it wasn't difficult for such a large casino to go back on one's word. If one wanted to protect their rights, they had to be stronger than them first. Only then would they be able to successfully protect their rights. Any rights protection department would be in cahoots with each other. There was no way one could win against them if they were in cahoots. Once the Broad Delight Casino gathered its manpower, one's life would be at stake if one came to cause trouble again. After all, 10 billion purple yuan wasn't a small amount. At this price, even if one wanted to kill a yuan monarch powerhouse, there would probably be people willing to do it. It would be more than enough to invite a yuan monarch elite to help out. However, if that was the case, such behavior would be too low for the Broad Delight Casino. As long as Li Zongjio and Xue Jianhe were a little tactful and dropped the matter after receiving a portion of the money, they wouldn't pursue the matter. Losses were losses and they would earn them back sooner or later. However, if someone like Li Zongjio still took this contract seriously, it would be a little too tactless. Therefore, when Taifai saw Li Zongjio take out this contract and actually boast shamelessly that he wanted to take over the Broad Delight Casino, he directly touched Taifai's bottom line. He had to make Li Zongjio stay here today. Otherwise, these young people really didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Seal the door. Xue Jiang shouted. Then he leaped and landed directly in front of Li Zongjio. Where's that kid from last time? Xue Jiang said in a low voice. It seemed like he was here to seek revenge. However, Li Zongjio also said directly, he didn't come. That kid didn't come, yet you still dare to be so arrogant. Today, Grandpa Xue Jiang will teach you how to behave. Xue Jiang sneered and released his Blood Eagle origin spirit instantly. Following Xue Jiang's movement, he also pounced towards Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio shook his head helplessly when he saw the incoming attack. Immediately, his figure flashed and he dashed in front of Xue Jiang. He stretched out his hand and grabbed Xuejiang's throat. Then, he raised his head and looked at Tai-Fai, who was upstairs. I've already said that I'm here to save you today. You should be thanking me. As soon as he finished speaking, Li Zongjio sent him flying with a slap. Xuejiang's head instantly exploded like a water ball. Seeing this scene, even Tai-Fai was so frightened that he took a step back, his face instantly turning pale. Xuejiang had already comprehended something after the previous battle and was even preparing to break through recently. If he broke through to the Yuan monarch realm, killing that kid called Kun Erasure would be a piece of cake. After all, there was a huge difference between a half-step Yuan monarch and a Yuan monarch elite. However, Xuejiang had been able to take a few blows from Kun Erasure previously. The two of them had been able to fight for a while before being defeated. Now, facing Li Zongjio, he was actually unable to put up any resistance. In just one round, Xuejiang's head was completely smashed. Xuejiang was an elite who was about to break through to the Yuan monarch realm. If the sneak attack had succeeded, Xuejiang would have been the one to make the first move. However, Xuejiang had died right in front of his eyes. When the blood spurted out, the surrounding machete men all took a step back, because the situation in front of them was too cruel for them. Most importantly, Li Zongjio did not even bat an eyelid after killing someone. How many people did he have to kill in order to master this skill? Most importantly, Xuejiang, who had died, was a top-notch expert. Now, he had died so mysteriously. He probably did not even know that he would die here today. This was really too sudden. He casually threw the headless corpse in his hands to the ground. He had originally thought that Li Zongjio's strength would be weaker, so he had sent Kun Erasure the previous time. However, Tai-Fai wanted to see Kun Erasure more. Although Kun Erasure was also difficult to deal with, at least he would not kill people casually. Everyone was educated and could sit down and talk things out slowly. However, Li Zongjio was different. His posture was clearly saying that he could not be bothered to talk nonsense with him. As a result, Tai-Fai, who was upstairs, also understood the purpose of Li Zongjio's visit. In an instant he also understood clearly. If he did not comply with Li Zongjio's wishes today, then he would probably start a massacre. All of you back down. Ask Mr. Li to come up. Such an important matter naturally could not be known to his subordinates. However, now these subordinates clearly knew that after this, their master would be changed. They did not know what the future situation would be like. Li Zongjio went upstairs. Originally, Li Zongjio wanted to uproot the Yi family and make all their businesses go bankrupt. If it really did not work, then he would kill everyone he saw. However, after thinking about it, this was too capricious and uncivilized. It would not benefit Li Zongjio or the Li family. On the contrary, it would cause unnecessary trouble. It was one thing to not be afraid of trouble, but it was another thing to cause unnecessary trouble. Therefore, now Li Zongjio thought of a new idea, and that was to incorporate all these businesses. When the Li family moved into the Sacred Flame Royal City, it would naturally be easier. In the future, when the Li family's overall strength increased, there would be no situation that they could not control. Young Master Li, you also know that I do not have the final say in this Great Delight Casino. I am only a manager. Every month, I have to report to the Li family. I am also just someone who receives a salary. Tai-Fai sat opposite Li Zongjio and said. At this point he also had a worried look on his face. Yilan Tian is already dead. I killed him. In the future, the profits of this Great Delight Casino will belong to you. However, I have a request. Within 3 months, acquire and merge all the other gold medal casinos. Take over all the businesses that belong to the Yi family. Li Zongjio said word by word. When he heard Li Zongjio's words, Tai-Fai already sucked in a breath of cold air. This brat actually dared to admit that he killed Yilan Tian. Did he really not want to live anymore? Could it really be that Li Zongjio did it? Not only that, when he heard the latter part of the sentence, Tai-Fai was even more certain that Li Zongjio was clearly a lunatic. Chapter 437. You killed Yilan Tian. Tai-Fai looked at Li Zongjio in shock. You should recognize this item. Li Zongjio placed a storage ring on the table. At the same time, he also placed the storage rings of Yi Lantian and the others on the table. When he saw the 4 storage rings placed together, Taifai's heart was already in turmoil. He had never experienced such an exciting thing in his life, and he never dared to imagine it. Perhaps other things could be forged, but Taifai could recognize these 4 storage rings. They were indeed the father and son of the Yi family. The 4 members of the Yi family had actually died in the hands of Li Zongjio. There must be an extremely powerful force behind Li Zongjio to be able to move such an important official of the imperial court. Could it be that Li Zongjio and the person behind him wanted to rebel? If that was the case, it would be too terrifying. Originally, it was nothing. However, since the Yi family insisted on provoking me, I had no choice but to destroy them. If you can't do what I said just now, I will have no choice but to get rid of you as well. I don't keep useless people as my subordinates. Li Zongjio said indifferently. At the same time, he looked at Taifai. If Li Zongjio had said this at the beginning, Taifai would definitely have laughed at Li Zongjio. However, the evidence of Yi Lantian's death was right in front of him. The person who had turned the entire Holy Flame Royal City upside down was actually this unknown youth. It was simply too unbelievable. In addition, he had killed Xue Jiang in an instant with just one move. With such strength, there were only a few people in the world who could do it. Most importantly, when he killed, there was no emotion in his eyes. It was as if killing someone was as simple as eating a meal for him. Taifai was really afraid of the cause and effect. At this moment, he knew that his life was in Li Zongjio's hands. If he couldn't satisfy Li Zongjio, then he wouldn't be able to walk out of this room today. Soon, someone else would take his place. The annexation between the casinos is more complicated than one would imagine. It is naturally not a problem to take over the Yi clan's business. However, the prerequisite is that the Yi clan must be completely destroyed. Although Yi Lantian is dead, there are still people in charge of the Yi clan. There will definitely be someone to take over. At the same time, the Yi clan's Dark Knight army will not be affected at all. I will naturally get to the bottom of the matter regarding the Yi clan. You don't need to worry about this. Since you have the ability, I will leave it to you. If anyone comes knocking, just send someone to the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor to look for me. Li Zongjio said calmly. In the early stages of starting a business, he naturally needed to make a few more trips. He would only relax when he recruited a few capable assistants. At the beginning, it was also like this. There was no other way. But, boss, there is one thing that you must know. Taifai said. He almost called him young Master Li again. However, after thinking about it, his identity was no longer the same. Moreover, Li Zongjio seemed to only be here to give some instructions. Wasn't this too casual? Did he really trust Taifai that much? However, Taifai knew that the Boyu Casino was his life's work. If he left the Boyu Casino, then he, Taifai, wouldn't be able to achieve anything. Now that he met Li Zongjio, Taifai had a premonition that after today, the entire Holy Yen City would be different. Moreover, he, Taifai, would also become different because of this. Since he had made such a choice, it would definitely not be wrong. What's the matter? Li Zongjio asked. The local gang, the Azure Dragon Gang, follows the Yi family's lead. In the hands of the Azure Dragon Gang, half of the casino resources in Holy Yen City are in the hands of the Azure Dragon Gang. There are also smoking houses, brothels, and restaurants. If the Yi family falls, then the Azure Dragon Gang will definitely attack. Their goal will definitely be the Yi family's property. Taifai said. The reason why they were so serious today was to prevent the Azure Dragon Gang from coming to cause trouble. However, who knew that the Azure Dragon Gang didn't come? Instead, it was Li Zongjio who came. Compared to the Azure Dragon Gang, Taifai and the others were really too weak. They only owned a casino. There was no way to compare with a gang like the Azure Dragon Gang. Therefore, the speed of acquisition and annexation was definitely slower than the Azure Dragon Gang. Sooner or later, the Azure Dragon Gang would find the Boyu Casino and take it under their banner. For such a matter, they had long been eyeing him covetously. In other words, other than the Yi Ming army, there is also this Azure Dragon Gang. The Yi Ming army was the Yi family's people. On the other hand, the Azure Dragon Gang was an external threat. They were also prepared to compete with Li Zongjio. That's right. The Azure Dragon Gang has deep roots and many tricks up their sleeves. They have won over many influential officials in the imperial court. Although on the surface, they are subservient to the Yi family. In reality, they are secretly plotting against the Yi family. If something happens to the Yi family, it will definitely be exposed. Taifai said. Hearing these words, Li Zongjio nodded. All right, come with me to the Azure Dragon Gang. Li Zongjio said directly. Since the Azure Dragon Gang wanted to cause trouble in front of Li Zongjio also had the obligation to warn the Azure Dragon Gang members not to cause trouble for him. If they did not listen, then they could not blame Li Zongjio. Using peaceful means before resorting to force was the biggest concession Li Zongjio could make. Even such a peaceful character, in Li Zongjio's view, was simply too benevolent. According to the character of his previous life, the Azure Dragon Gang did not need to exist at all. He could just destroy it with a single palm. What? Go to the Azure Dragon Gang? Taifai did not react for a while. Li Zongjio was too confident. Did he really think that the Azure Dragon Gang was a vegetable market, where he could go as he pleased? Just as Taifai was shocked, a loud noise suddenly came from downstairs. The closed door was kicked open again. Downstairs, there was also the sound of a knife. Where is Taifai? Your grandfather Wild Lion is here to find you. A strong voice came, and there was a commotion downstairs. There seemed to be a lot of conflict. When he heard this voice, Taifai also sucked in a breath of cold air. His expression seemed to be extremely frightened. This person is from the Azure Dragon Gang. His nickname is Wild Lion. East Hall Master, Taifai said. Chapter 438. At first, Li Zongjio was curious as to why a group of burly men liked to call him Lion Monkey King or something like that. Later on, he found out that it was to increase his deterrence and make people feel afraid when they heard his name. However, when Li Zongjio came out and saw the people sitting downstairs, Li Zongjio seemed to have found another reason. Taifai, you saw your grandfather, why haven't you come over to invite him for tea? Kuang Shi's men moved an armchair and placed it in the middle of the road, waiting for Taifai to come over and lick his face paint. However, Kuang Shi's eyes were so sharp that he immediately saw Li Zongjio walking in front of Taifai. Who was Taifai? The head of the Boyu Casino was definitely a well-known figure in the casino. His seniority was also the highest. Now, he was following behind a teenager. How could Kuang Shi not be surprised? Li Zongjio moved a chair and placed it in front of Kuang Shi. After sitting down, he carefully looked at Kuang Shi in front of him. Everyone from now on, this Mr. Li is the new boss of our Boyu Casino. Taifai directly said to the people around him. Kuang Shi and the others didn't know what happened, but the people present clearly saw the scene of Li Zongjio killing Xue Jiang in one move. That scene still lingered in their minds. It was obvious that Li Zongjio shocked them. After some negotiations, the price should be settled. Now that the boss had changed, it didn't affect them much. After all, it didn't matter who they worked for, as long as they were paid. They always recognized money, not people. However, Kuang Shi's face suddenly changed. He, Kuang Shi, came here today for the control of this casino. But now, it was taken by someone else. How could he bear it? What's more, Mr. Li? He had never heard of such a person. Where did you get your hair styled? Li Zongjio asked very sincerely. He was really curious. Who could make hair like this? It looked like it was struck by lightning. Such a creative hairstyle, only they could come up with it. The person called Kuang Shi in front of him was not very tall. His body was also somewhat squarish. Most importantly, when one looked at his head of exploding hair, he really did look like a lion. Merely, it was a lion that had gone insane. Anyone could see that Li Zongjio was laughing at Kuang Shi's hairstyle. If it was according to Kuang Shi's usual temper, he would have pulled out his 5-horse dismemberment blade and directly dismembered Li Zongjio's body. He wouldn't have sat there and talked amiably with Li Zongjio, acting as if nothing had happened. Kuang Shi was also suppressing his violent temper at this moment. Brat, where are you from? To be able to subdue Taifai in such a short time, there must be a certain amount of power behind him. Therefore, Kwangshi didn't dare to act rashly. It was better to check out the details first. Originally, the Azure Dragon Gang wanted to be fast. If first impressions were the strongest, then the other forces in the city would have to be wary of the Azure Dragon Gang's reputation if they wanted to get their hands on it. However, the other party had taken the lead, so Kwangshi couldn't help but be vigilant. The news of Yi Lantian's death had been confirmed. The entire Yi family would definitely plummet after Yi Lantian's death. Moreover, the Azure Dragon Gang had already shown signs of rebellion. Even if the Yi family had other methods, it would only be to take back these things. There wouldn't be any other problems. In order to ensure that the Boyu Casino would fall into their hands, they directly sent Kwangshi, the hall master of the East Hall, over. This was enough to show the importance of the Boyu Casino. In any case, it was still a gold medal casino. A casino like this was a gold-plated signboard. You want to test my background? Let me hear you call me father first. Li Zongjio instantly laughed. When it came to playing these games, he had already played them thousands of years ago. When these words came out, the expressions of the people behind Kwangshi immediately changed. They looked at Li Zongjio in disbelief. Wasn't he too bold? Didn't this person know who he was? He actually dared to step on Kwangshi's head and behave so atrociously. He would probably kneel down and call him father in the next second. Kwangshi's eyes instantly widened in anger, but he didn't act rashly. Instead, he glanced at Taifai, who was standing behind Li Zongjio. He realized that Taifai's face didn't show the slightest bit of surprise. It seemed that according to that kid's character, he would definitely do such a thing. This caused Kwangshi's tightly clenched fist to loosen temporarily. Little brother, you're not in our gang, right? I advise you not to get involved in this mess. The Azure Dragon Gang isn't something you can provoke. Kwangshi sneered. I've never heard of the Azure Dragon Gang, but I'm quite interested in the Azure Insect Gang. Li Zongjio said indifferently. Before he spoke, he didn't put the Azure Dragon Gang in his eyes at all. Why should he put them in his eyes? How many people had Li Zongjio killed? Meng Yu from the Qingyuan villa, and the one who was sent to be the city lord. That one was too far away. The few people he killed recently were all well-known figures. Yi Lantian also died at the hands of Li Zongjio. You're courting death. How dare you insult the Azure Dragon Gang? Chop him to death. Kwangshi shouted. The people behind him couldn't hold back the long swords in their hands. They all slashed towards Li Zongjio. The people of Boyu Casino didn't move. Although the boss had changed, Taifai hadn't said anything. They wouldn't be so stupid as to directly rush up. After all, the one who paid them was Taifai, not Li Zongjio. Therefore, without Taifai's order, the rest of the people also didn't move. Taifai also didn't have the slightest indication. If he wanted to acquire the other casinos, he had to go through the Azure Dragon Gang. If he couldn't even deal with Kwangshi, then Taifai would rather die now. Otherwise, if he went against the Azure Dragon Gang in the future, his end would be incomparably miserable. Li Zongjio didn't stay idle. Nearly 10 experts from the other side rushed up. With a thought, they immediately controlled their swords and then slashed their own necks. Swish. Gulp. 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 Before the dozen or so people could even reach them, they already saw 10 heads rolling on the ground one after another. A few heads rolled directly to Kwangshi's feet. One of them even stared at Kwangshi with his eyes wide open. It was obvious that he had encountered something extremely shocking before he died. Chapter 439. Kwangshi immediately jumped up from his armchair in fright. Not only Kwangshi, but even Taifai, who was behind him, widened his eyes and sucked in a breath of cold air. His pupils constricted as he sucked in a breath of cold air. Kwangshi had been able to get to the position of Hall Master in the Azure Dragon Gang because he had experienced many big scenes. He had seen and even participated in the fight between hundreds of people. There were countless scenes of a person holding a saber and fighting a bloody battle in the heavy rain. Just the scars on his body alone were too many to count. Such a ruthless person was truly frightened by the strange scene in front of him at this moment. It wasn't that he hadn't seen powerhouses who were proficient in mind power before. The Azure Dragon Gang had them as well, but they definitely couldn't reach such a level. How could someone control 10 people and use the knives in their hands to chop off their own heads in an instant? This was even more unbelievable. Furthermore, these 10 people had been carefully selected by Kuang Shi. They were all famous fighters that Dong Tangtang had mentioned. Each of them had mental strength and weren't weak either. They were all at the Origin General Realm. Origin Ancestor Realm powerhouses were in the minority. Kuang Shi was an Origin Ancestor Realm powerhouse. Most of the top powerhouses were under the Gang Master. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to control so many people and hold down so many places. However, this time, Kuang Shi was really afraid. From the first time he saw this young man, he felt a little strange. He had a feeling that Li Zongjio shouldn't have appeared in such a place. Indeed, this young man's strength was absolutely terrifying. It seemed like Taifai had already found a backer, which was why he had done this. Otherwise, such a situation wouldn't have happened. Yi Lantian had just died and his energy had been taken over by someone else. There weren't many people who could go against the Azure Dragon Gang. After he went back and reported, he would let the Gang Master make a decision. Since you're from the Azure Dragon Gang, then go back and tell the gang leader of the Azure Dragon Gang that the Great Joy Casino is under my protection. In addition, I want all the other casinos in the city. Li Zongjio said to Mad Lion and pointed at the 10 heads on the ground. And these things, take them all back. Don't dirty my territory. He brought his men here, but in the end, they were killed by the other party. Now, he even had to bring a message back. This was simply a great humiliation. However, Mad Lion didn't have the confidence to fight with the person in front of him. Duel with Li Zongjio? With the battle in front of him, he was definitely not confident. If he forced himself to fight, he might not even be able to walk out in the end. He could see that it wasn't that the other party didn't dare to kill him, or that they were afraid of his reputation. They just needed someone to pass on the message. That was why they spared his life and allowed him to move freely. Wild Lion had even forgotten how he had managed to get out. For him, this day was like living in hell. The moment he walked out of the Great Delight Casino, Mad Lion felt as if he had just escaped from hell. He breathed a sigh of relief. Yes, it was too terrifying. He didn't want to come to this casino a second time. There were some subordinates waiting for him in the distance. Mad Lion hurriedly threw the head in his hand to his subordinate. Of course, he put it in a sack. Hall Master, what do you think? Do you want to kill your way in? Kill your ass? Retreat for this, daddy. Mad Lion directly slapped his subordinate's face, causing him to spin 2 rounds on the spot. Then, Mad Lion ran back to his hall in a panic. The Azure Dragon Gang also had a proper sect outside. To the outside world, it was called the Azure Dragon Gate. It was a sect that specialized in education and strengthening the body. However, in reality, it was doing some shady business in the dark. Mad Lion ran all the way back. After that, Li Zongjio said to Taifai, I will take care of the Azure Dragon Gang. As for the rest, I will let you do it. If you don't do it well, I will kill you and replace you with someone else. After saying that, Li Zongjio directly left. If Tai Feiha was a smart person, then he would naturally know how to deal with Li Zongjio. Although Li Zongjio seemed to be alone right now, the origin of the brat from last time was not simple at all. Therefore, there must be someone behind these 2 young people. In such a struggle, one naturally had to make a good choice. Li Zongjio did not care how Taifai chose. If this Taifai could not do what Li Zongjio asked him to do, then there was no need to keep him. He could just kill him. It would not be difficult for Li Zongjio to find another capable person to replace him. In Royal City, there were too many vicious and merciless people who had long been prepared to go on a killing spree, but had yet to get the chance. Li Zongjio first returned to the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. He borrowed a few books from the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. With Li Zongjio's current status and contribution, there was no need for him to study in the academy. Because even if the vice principal of the academy came, there was nothing to teach him. Even if Ling Yan saw it, he wouldn't be able to do anything about it. Moreover, Ling Yan didn't intend to impart knowledge to them. With their talent, it wouldn't take long for them to become influential figures in the academy. Therefore, Ling Yan also went to prepare for his own matters. He spent more time on his own matters. On the other hand, Yang Xuelin had come looking for Li Zongjio several times. Li Zongjio didn't know why, but he didn't see her. Lan Kuan and Shui Yue were probably doing something shameful. If Kuan Erisher and Shui Yu are together, they should be a perfect match. Li Zongjio thought in his heart. In his opinion, if Kuan Erisher liked Shui Yu, then he, Li Zongjio, as his big brother, would fight for him no matter what. Not fight, but definitely succeed. He went back to his own manor. The meat shop sent meat to him every day so that he would not starve to death. During the day, he and the Howling Moon Wolf King would lie on the ground and sleep. At night, they would lie on the ground and cultivate. Occasionally, they would change their posture. The night gradually darkened, and the entire city was under martial law. The people in the joyous heavenly restaurant were released one by one when the sky turned dark. After all, such a big matter could not be easily let go. Even Song Jiu had a hard time getting out of it. That guy is really powerful. Song Jiu gritted her teeth when she thought of Li Zongjio. She actually misjudged him. Chapter 440. Fortunately, Song Jiu had a good relationship with Li Zongjio's family. She had gifted Li Zongjio the expensive thunderous short arrow back then. She should be able to leave a good impression on him. Since Li Zongjio was so capable, she had to win him over. Li Zongjio's reputation had yet to spread throughout the city. If the entire Sacred Flame Royal City knew about Li Zongjio's strength and reputation, it would be more difficult to rope in Li Zongjio or do other things. Song Jiu was a businesswoman. Anyone who could bring her benefits was a friend. Although Song Jiu was unhappy, the reason why she was unhappy was because she had misjudged Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio had caused her to make a mistake. It was still her own self-esteem that caused trouble. But soon, Song Jiu thought about what kind of value she could find from Li Zongjio. Is there anyone who can recommend the Raging Dragon Capturing Flames? The Raging Dragon Capturing Flames was the newest Yuan weapon of the 7-star Fire Room. Every Yuan weapon that came out needed to be promoted vigorously. Only then would people believe in the power of the Raging Dragon Capturing Flames and know that it was such a powerful Yuan weapon. Although there were special counters in the Sacred Flame Royal City that would display these items, there was still a need to promote the Yuan weapon. However, Song Jiu wanted to sell the Raging Dragon Capturing Flames to all parts of the country. Only then would she be able to earn more money. Therefore, she would often invite some famous people to promote and endorse the Raging Dragon Capturing Flames. Many people had only heard of this origin tool, but on that day, they suddenly heard that some famous person was praising the new origin tool produced by the 7-star Fire Workshop. He even strongly recommended it. Then, the popularity of the 7-star Fire Workshop suddenly increased. This was the so-called celebrity effect. If the current Emperor Shengyan praised something, then there was no need to waste time thinking about it. They could just wait for it to be sold out. Miss, the person who promoted the Raging Dragon Capturing Flames, is currently the owner of Fengshan Pavilion. How much is the owner of Fengshan Pavilion? 80 million purple yuan. His skin is really thick. If it was 2 years ago, the 80 million yuan would have been worth it. But now it's not worth it. Prepare a document for me. Just say that I've made my choice this time. Song Jiu said immediately. Fengshan Pavilion was a quiet place to drink wine. Quite a number of influential people would choose to come to Fengshan Pavilion to have a drink after struggling in this materialistic society. The owner of the Fengshan Pavilion was also a famous beauty. She was proficient in zither, chess, calligraphy, and painting. Many influential people wanted to get close to her. However, the owner of the Fengshan Pavilion was also extremely noble and self-righteous. It was because of her reputation as a beauty that the owner of the Fengshan Pavilion collected a lot of wealth. Even some of the previous Yuan tools were promoted by her. The effect could only be said to be average. But miss, the price for the pavilion master of Fengshan Pavilion has already been negotiated. The specific matters have also been discussed and settled. All that's left is to sign the contract. Clearly, not all of the matters had been negotiated. If she directly said that she did not want to sign the contract, Not only would she have to show sufficient persuasion to the management of the 7-star fire room, she would also have to withstand the pressure from the pavilion master of Fengshang Pavilion. "Don't worry. I'll take care of the rest," Song Jiyu said. As the eldest daughter of the Song clan, her words naturally carried a lot of weight. The maid could only obey. Although she was called a maid, she was actually a capable assistant. Many matters were handled by this assistant. Li Zongjio's manor. Li Zongjio waited in the manor until the sky turned dark. Currently, the special envoys in the city were extremely nervous. They were patrolling everywhere, looking for suspicious people on the streets. At the same time, they were checking if there were any suspicious people staying in the inns. Late at night, the Howling Moon Wolf King, who was lying in the courtyard, suddenly raised his head. It seemed to have discovered something. A figure could be seen jumping directly into the courtyard. When he turned around and saw the Howling Moon Wolf King raising its head, he gestured for the Howling Moon Wolf King to keep quiet. Then, he quickly tossed out a fragrant chicken drumstick from his storage ring. This made the Howling Moon Wolf King, who was lying on the ground, quickly get up. It was obviously very excited. It immediately chased in the direction of the chicken drumstick, wagging its tail as it ate happily. It had completely forgotten all of Li Zongjio's instructions. "Good lad. I, Shadow Fox, have been in the Jianghu for so many years and have never suffered a loss. Today I've suffered a great loss. If I didn't run fast enough, I would have been caught by those annoying guys," Shadow Fox said. The figure that descended was Yinghu. Yinghu was the one who witnessed Li Zongjio's actions. He didn't expect that Li Zongjio would frame him. This made Yinghu very unhappy, so he hid outside for a day. Finally, he found an opportunity to smear Li Zongjio's name. As a top assassin, it was natural for him to know all the information about his target in advance. Therefore, he was naturally aware that Li Zongjio owned a manor in the city. When he arrived and saw the grandeur of the manor, Yinghu felt a little indignant. He, Yinghu, had worked hard and struggled for half his life. However, he still could not afford to buy a manor in Monarch City. This was mainly because he spent too much money on eating and drinking. Therefore, his pockets were empty. However, now that he had accepted this job, he could not help but feel relieved. Although Yi Lantian was already dead, the money had already been paid and he had already received half of the commission. The remaining half was still in the Rain Pavilion. Only after the Heavenly Rain Pavilion confirmed that he had completed the mission would they give him the rest of the commission. Therefore, not only did he want to take revenge for what happened during the day, but he also wanted to kill Li Zongjio and take the rest of the commission. "After I kill you and exchange your head for money, I will buy a manor too," Yinghu thought to himself. He had been in the Jianghu for too long. He needed a home after all. Otherwise, he would not have a fixed place to stay. In fact, he was the only one who knew the bitterness in his heart. Let's not talk about this anymore. The reason why Yinghu chose to attack at night was because his technique could be more perfect at night. Li Zongjio died. Just as Yinghu was about to charge in, he felt something tugging at his trousers. Whoosh! Chapter 441. His pants were directly bitten open, leaving a hole. Shadow Fox lowered his head and saw something that looked like a puppy standing at his feet. Wasn't this the fellow that he had tricked with a drumstick? How could it eat so quickly? Although Shadow Fox was shocked, he remained patient and took out another drumstick. He waved it in front of the Howling Moon Wolf King's nose and then threw it at the corner of the wall. Whoosh! Shadow Fox sneered in his heart when he saw the Howling Moon Wolf King fly away. Hee, stupid dog. Shadow Fox observed for a while. Li Zongjio's aura was faintly discernible in the courtyard, as if he was hiding. However, it was almost impossible for Li Zongjio to hide from Shadow Fox's search. Therefore, Li Zongjio needed to walk to the courtyard from the side. However, Shadow Fox had only taken a few steps when he saw a figure appear in front of him. The figure was drooling at Shadow Fox and its tail was wagging non-stop. Damn, did you swallow it? Why didn't you chew on such a big bone? Shadow Fox didn't dare to make a sound. After saying that, he had to lure this annoying fellow away. Since you love to eat so much, dying from the food you love is the greatest benevolence I can give you. Inghu sneered. He had many ways to deal with these cute little animals. Immediately, he took out a bottle of venom from his bosom. Any drop of the venom in this bottle was enough to paralyze a Yuan general-level expert and cause him to lose his mind. It was quite powerful. Then, he took out the last drumstick from the storage ring. He dripped 2 drops of poison on the drumstick. In his opinion, if such a small dog was poisoned to death, only 1 drop would be enough. However, he was a generous person. He would let the dog die in a more dignified manner. This way, the dog would be able to brag about it in the underworld. My demented poison is a secret recipe. You can't buy it even if you want to. You got lucky. Shadow Fox then threw the drumstick that was stained with poison into the distance. The Howling Moon Wolf King also happily ran towards the drumstick. This time, Inghu was not in a hurry to leave. He had to make sure that this annoying dog was dead before he could continue his mission. Otherwise, if this silly dog barked casually, he might be discovered. When he saw the Howling Moon Wolf King dashing forward, he was deeply shocked. This was because he realized that this little dog's speed seemed to be faster than ordinary dogs. In the blink of an eye, the chicken drumstick had been bitten by the latter before it even landed on the ground. Then, with 2 crunches, the drumstick was chewed up and swallowed. Coming. Shadow Fox calculated the time in his mind. It would take some time for the venom to take effect. 10, 9, 8, 7. This time, the Howling Moon Wolf King did not run back immediately. Instead, it stood still for a while. Shadow Fox was counting silently in his heart. When he counted to 5, he suddenly saw the little mutt burp. He thought that the little dog was going to die, but he saw that the little dog actually turned around and ran towards him again. Fuck, why is there no reaction? This is impossible. 10 seconds had passed, but the little dog in front of him was still jumping around, as if it was begging to be repelled. But for Shadow Fox, there was nothing else he could do. Moreover, he did not understand why this guy was not poisoned to death. Could it be that he had taken the wrong one? Logically speaking, it should have died suddenly. You are having fun here. Didn't I say that I would bite anyone who dared to come in? Just as Shadow Fox was feeling puzzled, he suddenly heard a cold voice coming from behind him. It turned out that Li Zongjio had appeared behind him without him noticing. When he saw Li Zongjio, Shadow Fox's face suddenly became ferocious. To be able to get within 20 steps of me, it seems that you have also practiced the art of concealment. Shadow Fox quietly took a few steps back, but he saw that Li Zongjio stood still and kicked the Howling Moon Wolf King's butt. Suddenly, the Howling Moon Wolf King realized that Li Zongjio was the one who gave it the meat. Moreover, the person in front of it had also climbed over the wall. It should have killed him with its first bite, but because of the temptation of the drumstick, it forgot to do so. For the Howling Moon Wolf King, it was simply a failure in its career. Roar! Immediately, the Howling Moon Wolf King roared at Shadow Fox. Its voice was deep and penetrating, and even this roar made Shadow Fox's heart tremble. This shocked Inghu. He could not believe it. Was this still the same little dog from before? How could it release such a loud roar? This was simply going to scare people out of their wits. However, what shocked him even more was that the Howling Moon Wolf King's body was rapidly transforming. It directly transformed into the huge Howling Moon Wolf King. Under the moonlight, the Howling Moon Wolf King's posture was quite powerful and domineering. At this moment, Shadow Fox was also stunned. He had traveled extensively for so many years, but he had never seen such a powerful existence. It was actually able to transform a little mutt into a wolf king. At the same time, the ferocious aura also made Shadow Fox deeply aware that the strength of the Howling Moon Wolf King in front of him was far above his own. Oh no! Shadow Fox instantly realized that things were not good, so he turned around and ran. In any case, he had already taken half of the money. As for the remaining half, it didn't matter if he took it or not. In any case, the owner was already dead. As for the matter of framing this guy, the hatred seemed to have become less important at this moment. It was inevitable that there would be some misunderstandings about this kind of thing after wandering around for a long time. This was a very common thing. At this moment, Inghu seemed to have let go of everything. Now, he just wanted to jump over the wall. However, before he could reach the wall, the howling moon wolf king bit his clothes and forcefully pulled him back. Bang! Shadow Fox's body instantly fell to the ground. Then, the howling moon wolf king slapped his body with its paw. Holding Shadow Fox's body down, it did not say anything and directly bit down. However, only a cloud of mist rose into the air. It disappeared. A ray of light flashed across the howling moon wolf king's eyes. It actually escaped under its nose. Its nose twitched and instantly, it saw a figure on the other side running wildly. Roar! Chapter 442. Although this move was very powerful, it had deceived the Howl Wolf. He had deceived the howling moon wolf king, but he had underestimated the gap between the two of them. After all, the howling moon wolf king was the overlord of the forest. In terms of speed, it was no match for the Howl Wolf. The Howl Wolf turned slightly and took a step forward. In an instant, it appeared in front of the Shadow Fox. This time, the Shadow Fox had no other moves. The only thing it could do was to run as far as it could. However, the Howl Wolf had already landed on the ground. Boom! The Howl Wolf slapped the Shadow Fox and sent it flying to the ground. Normally, if a person was running forward, it would be better to push him than to pull him. Ordinary. Not only did the Shadow Fox fall to the ground, but its back was also hit by the Howl Wolf's claw. However, it was not injured because it was wearing an inner armor. However, because it blocked the attack, the inner armor was shattered. Wait, I have something to say. The Shadow Fox quickly raised its hand and said. At the same time, there was a huge pig trotter in its hand. The Howl Wolf wanted to dig out the Shadow Fox's head and eat it. After all, it had to listen to Li Zongjio's orders. However, the sudden appearance of the huge pig trotter made the Howl Wolf stop in its tracks. It stared at the pig trotter with its eyes wide open. Without Li Zongjio's permission, it did not dare to eat it directly. After thinking about it, it decided to eat the human first before eating the pig trotter. Wait! Li Zongjio said calmly. The Shadow Fox was quite capable to be able to dodge two of the Howl Wolf's attacks. However, it did not matter whether it was capable or not. Li Zongjio was in need of talents. After all, Li Zongjio was always the most powerful one. The Howl Wolf still opened its mouth. However, it directly took a bite of the fragrant pig trotter. It was quite straightforward because it could not bear the smell of the pig trotter. It could not help but eat it directly. Li Zongjio didn't say anything. Instead, he looked at the Shadow Fox in front of him. Don't kill me. I'll give you all the money that Yi Lantian gave me. Let me go. How about that? Yinghu said directly. At the same time, he looked at Li Zongjio with a pleading look. He never thought that it would be a simple mission. After all, the other party had already sent some assassins. The reason why he asked him to come out was to ensure that nothing would go wrong. But who would have thought that the assassins that those people had arranged before? In the end, none of them appeared. They didn't even manage to touch Li Zongjio's hair before they were all killed. Therefore, Yinghu had no choice but to take action. However, the truth was that even though he, Yinghu, had intervened, he was still unable to do anything. He still ended up with the same fate. He, Shadow Fox, loved money as much as his life. Now that he had to cough up all that money, it was even crueler than killing him. However, he had no other choice now. He had to hold on to his life first. It was said that money was more important than life, but sometimes, the reason why he earned so much money was to hold on to his cheap life. Do I look like someone who is short of money? Li Zongjio instantly laughed. You are quite an interesting person. Yinghu glanced at the huge manor around him. Obviously, it wasn't short of money. Even if he did this job, the money he earned was only enough to buy such a manor. However, not only did the young Li Zongjio buy such a manor, but he also directly reared a Yuan King-level meta beast in this manor. This was a level 5 meta beast. Did this meta beast just fall from the sky? In order to rear such a king-level meta beast, not only did one need to have enough money, but one also needed to be strong enough. I don't lack money, I don't lack money. Then you don't lack my head either, right? We have no enmity between us, it's just business. Let me go today, and if you need me in the future, Feel free to call on me at any time. Inghu said immediately. Li Zongjio saw that Inghu changed his tone so quickly. Did he often beg others for mercy in the past? It was also a headache to think about whether he could use such a person. However, since Inghu said that he could be ordered at any time, Li Zongjio happened to have something that he could use Inghu for. Since you said so, I'll give you a chance. I don't want others to say that I'm unreasonable. Li Zongjio said indifferently. Then he helped Inghu up from the ground. What is it? Just say it. If I can't do it, I'll put my head on your table. Inghu said immediately with a righteous look. It was as if he was duty-bound to do this and would do his best. You seem to be very confident. Having confidence is a good thing. How about this? I'll give you 3 days to take the head of the Green Dragon Gang's leader and give it to me. Then, we'll be even. Li Zongjio said with a smile. What? The leader of the Green Dragon Gang? Little brother, you must be joking. How is that possible? The leader of the Green Dragon Gang. If he guessed correctly, there was only one Green Dragon Gang in the entire Holy Flame Royal City. Coincidentally, the Azure Dragon Gang was the leader of this underground gang. With such a status, they were almost on the same level as Yi Lantian. Why don't you just let me kill Yi Lantian? That would be easier. After all, Yi Lantian is already dead. Green Dragon Gang. Little brother, you're playing me to death. Inghu couldn't believe it. Yi Lantian was really wicked. He was such a difficult person to deal with. Why did he have to find him? Although he was happy when he was first approached, he felt that he had picked up a great bargain. Inghu really regretted it. Don't worry, I won't mistreat you. From today onwards, I'll let this little wolf be your assistant. If you need any help, just look for him. He can understand human language. If you don't want to go, just tell him. He knows what to do. Li Zongjio said. At the same time, he transmitted his thoughts to the Howling Moon Wolf King. The Howling Moon Wolf King also let out a symbolic howl. However, Inghu's face was filled with pain. How was this supposed to help him? It was obviously here to watch him. If he tried to escape, he would be eaten. The Howling Moon Wolf King was sent to watch him. But what else could he do? Didn't he still have 3 days? Then, he would spend the next 3 days enjoying himself. Then, Li Zongjio asked Inghu to leave. The Howling Moon Wolf King followed closely behind. There was nothing to worry about letting the Howling Moon Wolf King follow Inghu. With Inghu's strength, there was no way he could escape from the Howling Moon Wolf King's claws. Li Zongjio wasn't worried even when he was walking in the Sacred Flame Royal City. In the worst case, Li Zongjio only needed a thought to know the situation in the city. Therefore, there shouldn't be any problems. With Li Zongjio's current strength, there was nothing to be afraid of in the city. As long as he didn't force his way into the palace, everything else could be solved. Moreover, he now had an identity. It was this identity that brought Li Zongjio a lot of convenience. Originally, he wanted to visit the Yi family's courtyard directly tonight. However, due to the disturbance caused by Inghu, his trip was delayed. Therefore, he returned to his room to cultivate. Chapter 443. At this moment, funeral cloths were hung everywhere in the Yi family. Yi Lantian's sudden murder had almost turned the Yi family upside down. Although it had not been completely flipped over yet, the funeral was a very extreme and very obvious manifestation of it. Yi Lantian's wife, Madame Xiang, had no choice but to be elected. However, Yi Lantian's brothers all wanted to come to the Yi family to take a share of the family business. Sister-in-law, I'm sorry for second brother's death. Don't worry, as long as big brother is still alive, he will definitely investigate this matter thoroughly and arrest the murderer. Yi Lantian's eldest brother was the district chief of this city. He was equivalent to the county's great-grandfather in this city. However, it was obvious that in this monarch city, this position could only deal with some trivial matters. He did not even dare to interfere in slightly bigger matters. The slightest carelessness would cause him to fall into a situation of eternal damnation. This position was obviously not very useful. If it were not for Yi Lantian, he would not even be able to become the district chief. After all, it was all thanks to Yi Lantian's prestige that such a gluttonous and lazy person was able to survive until now. If you want to talk about me, since such a thing actually happened in second brother's family, we should go to that master to calculate. At the same time, we should also bless the Yi family mansion. There must be some evil force causing trouble here. The youngest fifth brother was obsessed with the theory of ghosts and gods. As he spoke, he even looked at Madame Xiang intentionally or unintentionally. Then he muttered in an extremely soft voice. Could it be that he was cursed to death? Madame Xiang was in the morning hall. She listened to these brothers who used to be her husband's brothers gossip. They did not put the brotherhood in their eyes at all. They even dared to directly borrow money from her in front of her deceased husband. However, in just half a month, Madame Xiang had lost 2 sons and a daughter. Now, even her husband had been killed. How could people not gossip behind her back? Elder sister, since old master has already become like this, our Yi family courtyard cannot be without a leader. If that were to spread out, we would inevitably become a laughing stock. Song has been learning by old master's side since he was young. Why don't we let Song temporarily manage some of the family's affairs? As for the other arrangements, we will wait for the emperor's decree before making a decision. How about it? Yi Tsong was born of the second madam, but in reality, he was just a son who only knew how to squander money. He was incapable in both civil and martial arts. If the Yi clan was handed over to Yi Tsong to manage, it would basically be crippled. However, Madame Xiang was a woman and it was difficult for her to wield power. It would be a joke if she said it out loud. On the other hand, handing it over to Yi Tsong might look decent, but the Yi family's business would probably be lost. She gave birth to 2 sons with Madame Xiang, but now, both of them died suddenly, killed by someone. Their bodies had not even turned cold, and now, her husband was directly killed. Even if Madame Xiang had the ability to manage the Yi clan's affairs, she was not in the mood to do so at this time. The few people below were all eyeing the position of the head of the family covetously. For the past few days, they probably still had Madame Xiang in their eyes. If a few more days passed, they would probably turn the sky upside down. Elder sister, second sister, if we're talking about civil and military skills, then our family's is more outstanding and appropriate, impudent. I'm talking to elder sister here. When is it your turn to speak? Old master's body has not even turned cold. Could it be that you want to rebel? This second madam's temper was usually the most eccentric and irritable. Moreover, she had many tricks up her sleeves. Many of the sisters were also forced by her to the point that they almost could not stand it anymore. After being shouted at by the second madam, some of the people behind her who had other thoughts also dispelled one by one. It was difficult to explain the matter under the other party's prestige. If she was angered, then she might directly use force. Elder sister, it's not that I'm anxious as a younger sister, but I'm really thinking about the big picture. Look at old master's brothers. They are all eyeing our family business covetously. If Gu Xing and Gu Yu were here, they would not dare to be so impudent. I'm also thinking for the good of the Yi clan. The second madam slowly said. After this analysis, those who did not know would really think that the second madam was thinking for the good of the Yi clan. However, in reality, once Yi Tsong ascended to the position, he would definitely fiercely reorganize the Yi clan. Now, the most important thing was to obtain the Dark Knight token. Only this Dark Knight token could mobilize the Yi clan's most elite troops, the Dark Knight Army. If they could control the entire Dark Knight Army, then they would be able to dominate the Yi clan. Younger sister, you're thinking too much. If you have time, you should go and see Tsong first. Madame Xiang turned around to look at the second madam and said indifferently. Yi Lantian was her husband. Her 2 sons and 1 daughter were all cruelly killed by someone. As a mother and a wife, even if the hope was slim, she would definitely not give up. She must do something. The second madam was also stunned. What did Madame Xiang mean? Lord Xiang Yu of the Xiang family has arrived. Xiang Yu, he was also Madame Xiang's younger brother. What were these people doing here? Even if they were here to pay their respects, it was not their turn yet. Madam. Just as the second madam was about to question Madame Xiang, one of her servant girls quickly walked over and whispered a few words into the second madam's ear. However, the speed of her words was extremely fast. What? Song-er is in prison. When the second madam heard this, it was as if a bolt from the blue had struck her. Such a thing actually happened at such a critical moment. The reason for Yi Tsong's imprisonment was extremely strange. Attempted sexual assault. He was reported in court. It was said that the special envoys caught him on the spot and directly detained him in prison. They did not even need to interrogate him and directly arrested him. Xiangshu, how can you be so ruthless? The second madam immediately pointed at Madame Xiang and shouted sternly. In order to prevent Yi Tsong from coming out and causing trouble, she actually used such a method. It was really hard to believe. Madame Xiang must have planned this long ago. Younger sister, why do you say that? My husband, my son, my daughter. If I, Xiangshu, don't avenge these blood feuds, how can I still have the face to live in this world? No matter who is behind this, I will eliminate them all. As for all of you, Dark Knight Army, listen up. The Yi clan members are not to go out without my orders. Chapter 444. Early in the morning, Li Zongjio took a deep breath of fresh air in the courtyard. He had killed more than a dozen people yesterday, but today, it was as if nothing had happened. In Li Zongjio's opinion, it was a very normal thing. Today, Li Zongjio was also preparing to go to the library of the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor to browse. When he returned to the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor, he also found that Kun Erishur was nowhere to be seen. However, he thought that Kun Erishur must have gone on a date with Shueyue, or he must have gone to work under Sunyu. Why is it so lively? When Li Zongjio was heading to the library, he happened to pass by the square. At this moment, there were many people gathered in the square. He could see that these people were constantly moving, and their faces were filled with excitement. Quick, Senior Brother Gua is giving a sermon. He's sharing his experience in the Genius Tower. Let's go quickly. There won't be any seats left if we're late. Some of the students were running at top speed. Whether it was the first or second years, they all rushed out enthusiastically. There were only about 100 seats in the square, and they were all filled. Senior Brother Gua? Li Zongjio wasn't interested at all. He directly swept past these people. However, when he passed by the Genius Tower, he found that the 7th floor of the Genius Tower had already been broken through. The person who broke through was a person called Guisi. There were 3 stages on the 1st floor of the Genius Tower. Half a month ago, Li Zongjio was still at the juncture of the 3rd stage on the 7th floor. Now, he had directly broken through to the 8th floor. Therefore, Guisi came out of seclusion to share his experience. Although the specific method was difficult to describe, those who passed the test could use their own experience to comprehend the mysteries within and express it in their own words. As for how much could be imparted and how much could be absorbed by ordinary people, that would depend on the individual's luck. However, passing the 8th floor wasn't a big deal. Just as Li Zongjio was about to enter the library, he saw a man in white walking out with a few people. One of them was Sima Chun, who had tried to rope in Li Zongjio but was scolded by Li Zongjio. Sima Chun was obviously chatting and laughing in front of the white-robed man. He had a flattering look on his face. However, everyone knew that Sima Chun liked to be friends with everyone. Therefore they let him be. Anyway, Sima Chun's status wasn't simple. In addition, his talent wasn't bad either. It was natural for a person of such status to fawn over you. Naturally, you would feel proud of yourself. Hey, isn't this Li Zongjio, Junior Brother Li? Are you also here to listen to Senior Brother Guisi's lecture? When Sima Chun saw Li Zongjio, he was pleasantly surprised. Recently, Li Zongjio was in the limelight. Sima Chun wanted to rope him in, but after the last contact, he found that Li Zongjio didn't seem to be easy to get along with. Therefore, Sima Chun was also thinking of ways to get close to Li Zongjio. But yesterday, he seemed to have heard that Li Zongjio seemed to have contradicted Sima family's patriarch, Sima Xingyan, Sima Chun's father, which made Sima Chun somewhat puzzled. However, he thought that his father might have given him face because Li Zongjio was his classmate. Sima Chun suddenly remembered and quickly said to the white-robed man beside him, Senior brother Gua, this is the new king of this year's freshman, Li Zongjio. Hearing this, the white-robed man also glanced at Li Zongjio. So this is junior brother Li. The younger generation will surpass us in time. If there is anything you don't understand about alchemy in the future, you can ask me at any time. Guisi said with a smile. He also showed a kind face to Li Zongjio, but Li Zongjio was a genuine old fox. How could he not see through Guisi's background? He would be able to easily see through it. A hypocritical young man. Most importantly, he actually boasted so shamelessly. However, when the students beside him heard Guisi's words, they all looked at Li Zongjio with envy. One must know that Guisi gave Li Zongjio a chance when he opened his mouth. Moreover, he had the intention to cultivate Li Zongjio. With Guisi's strength, his strength had even surpassed some of the teachers in the academy. Therefore, to be able to receive Guisi's guidance was something that they could only envy. From this point, it could be seen that Guisi also thought highly of Li Zongjio. With your little ability, it's better to keep it for yourself. Li Zongjio said indifferently. Until now, Guisi's face had been maintaining this smile, but when he heard Li Zongjio's words, his smile suddenly froze. Even the flatterer Sima Chun was stunned. Just a moment ago, he was happy for Li Zongjio and was extremely impressed. Geniuses appreciated each other. However, what did Li Zongjio mean by his words? What did he mean by his little ability? It seemed like he was looking down on senior brother Guisi. One must know that senior brother Guisi had solved the Genius Tower's difficult problem a few days ago. He had become the first person to reach the 8th floor. What kind of glory was this? What kind of strength was this? No wonder he was ranked 4th on the Alchemy Master ranking. Li Zongjio was someone who had yet to be ranked on the Alchemy Master ranking. Could it be that he was looking down on an expert on the Alchemy Master ranking? Wasn't he being a little too arrogant? However, the most important thing was Li Zongjio's last sentence. Keep it for himself to keep it for himself? What did that mean? Wasn't he saying? With Guisi's ability, it was only enough to guard his house. Wasn't it just a dog? He was implying that Guisi's cultivation had all been focused on a single dog. Li Zongjio really dared to say anything. Hearing this, the surrounding people's expressions all changed. Impudent. How dare you speak so rudely in front of senior brother? I think you've become too arrogant. How dare you be so impudent in front of senior brother Guisi? Before Sima Chun could say anything, the two students behind Guisi pointed at Li Zongjio and shouted. It was as if they were criticizing an unpardonable evil person. Li Zongjio glanced at the two people. The two of you are shouting quite happily. Get out of my way and don't block my way. Otherwise, you can only give a lecture while lying on your stomach. His words were obviously directed at Guisi. Originally, he didn't want to pay any attention to Guisi. However, he actually said that he wanted to give Li Zongjio some pointers. I'm afraid I didn't beat the shit out of you. That's because you pooped more cleanly in the morning. As for why he didn't bother with those bootlicking followers, that was also to save time. He couldn't just step on any grasshopper that hopped in front of him one by one. Chapter 445. What are you talking about? This is Heavenly Day Medicine Manor, not a place for hooligans. What are you talking about? These people were also relying on the fact that Guisi was standing in front of them. Each and every one of them mustered up their courage and continued to confront Li Zongjio. Why aren't you apologizing to Senior Gua? Maybe Senior Gua will be magnanimous and forgive you. That's right. How dare you talk nonsense in front of Senior Gua after learning some mediocre skills? Sima Chun looked at the situation and quickly walked in front of Li Zongjio and whispered to Li Zongjio. Junior brother Li, this senior brother Gua is someone you can't afford to offend. He's very powerful. Hurry up and apologize. I'll go talk to him and we'll forget about this matter today. Give me some face and admit defeat. Get out of the way. You're dead. Li Zongjio directly slapped Sima Chun's head and threw him to the side. In fact, Li Zongjio was also holding back. Although he and Sima Chun were on good terms, he didn't add insult to injury in front of Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio was naturally able to tell who was good and who was bad. This slap was to teach Sima Chun a lesson. At the same time, It was to make Sima Chun roll to the side and not get involved in the following matter. You guys are all big and burly men. Your parents painstakingly raised you and sent you to Heavenly Day Medicine Manor to study hard. But you guys are here, kneeling and licking someone who is similar to you. Don't you have any shame? How can you face your parents like this? Is it because this guy wants to sleep with your women? You guys are also willing to let him do it. You guys are also very happy to clap at the side when he does it. Li Zongjio pointed at the young man behind Guisi and scolded him. The current atmosphere in Heavenly Day Medicine Manor was also like this. No wonder there were so few talents in this dynasty. Each and every one of them was kneeling on the ground. Just looking at them made one angry. All of a sudden, it ignited everyone in the room. What did you say? Even Guisi, who had an extremely good temper, pointed at Li Zongjio and angrily reprimanded him. The fact that Li Zongjio had spoken such filthy words meant that his heart was extremely impure. The pills refined by such a person would definitely be even more smelly than the smelly rocks in the dung pit. I dare you to say that again. I won't allow you to insult Xiang Earth. There's absolutely no such thing. One of them seemed to be trying his best to deny Li Zongjio's words. The two companions beside him also looked at him with incomparable shock. If there was no such thing, then why was he so agitated to deny it? Why did he look so agitated? Why are you all looking at me? I only asked Xiang to help senior brother Guo grind the medicine. There's absolutely nothing else. That person was at a loss. He didn't know what to do at all. He could only give such a far-fetched explanation. However, such an explanation was really pale and powerless. It was even hard for people to believe it. Shut up. Li Zongjio, I have no enmity with you. Why do you have to slander me and defame me in front of so many senior brothers? Guisi pointed at Li Zongjio and roared in a low voice. There was an ominous glint in his eyes as he glared angrily at Li Zongjio. However, in the next moment he saw Li Zongjio grab his hand. He directly fell backwards. This shoulder throw was also very beautiful. Bang! Guisi's entire body was smashed to the ground. He fell to the ground and couldn't move. He looked as if he was about to die. Even Guisi himself didn't expect that Li Zongjio would actually dare to attack him. Such an extremely vile act actually happened to him in front of the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor's library. Don't be too arrogant. What right did Li Zongjio have to be so arrogant? Guisi, who had fallen to the ground, didn't get up. Some of the lackeys around him were also stunned. This was simply too much. He actually dared to attack. Speak properly. Don't point at me. It's so rude. Li Zongjio glanced at Guisi, who was lying on the ground, and said indifferently. At this moment, some of the people behind him hurriedly went up to support Guisi. They were concerned about Guisi, but they realized that the fall was indeed quite heavy. Li Zongjio, you are so daring. You actually dare to kill your fellow disciple. I will report you to the Academic Affairs Department. Whatever. Li Zongjio walked up the stairs and entered the library. When he heard the words of the people behind him, he waved his hand and said without even turning his head. The so-called Academic Affairs Department was specifically used to deal with those who were disobedient and had committed serious violations of the school rules. For such people, they would be sent to the Academic Affairs Department to receive punishment. Even if the teachers or elders in the academy committed a mistake, the Academic Affairs Department had the authority to punish them. Most of the students who were sent to such a place would be severely taught a lesson. Very few of them were disobedient. However, Li Zongjio didn't care. With the Imperial Alchemist token in his hand, no one would be able to touch him. Now that he thought about it, if it wasn't for him, the one who had the highest chance of winning this competition would be Meng Yu from the Qingyuan Manor. This token felt like it was tailor-made for Meng Yu. However, it had now fallen into his hands. Not only that, Meng Yu was directly killed by someone. Of course, he was killed by Li Zongjio. It seemed like the Qingyuan Manor had made a big mistake. Although Meng Yu's death didn't have much to do with Li Zongjio, the Qingyuan Manor would definitely come looking for him. This Li Zongjio is simply lawless and has no regard for the law. Let's jointly report him. Is there anyone who wants to follow me? The boy who was talking about Xiang suddenly said with righteous indignation. It seemed like he was preparing to get rid of evil for the people. However, the rest of the people didn't listen to him. Let's send Senior Guisi to the medical hall first. It seems like his injury is not light. Seeing that Guisi was still unable to get up, his mind was still clear. However, he had no way to control his body. This strange state was really surprising. If he still couldn't recover in a while, then it would really be the same as what Li Zongjio said. He could only lie down and share this lecture. His attack was really ruthless. They didn't know how Li Zongjio did it. Chapter 446. After all, this was the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor. If someone were to die here, Li Zongjio would not have an easy time. After all, Li Zongjio was still in the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor and he needed the things in the Genius Tower. It was best not to be too high profile. This time, he came to the library to look for the location of some herbs. It's not easy to refine a grade 6 elixir. Li Zongjio thought to himself. At the same time, he began to search through the books on the bookshelf. Finally, he found a book called the Encyclopedia of All Things. With the crystal of the blood medicine worm as the catalyst, I can refine a longevity myriad yuan elixir. However, I still lack a few unique herbs. The herbs needed to refine a grade 6 elixir could not be bought on the market. Only a specialized team could help you find them. However, he had to provide some information first. These medicinal herbs were enough to make people go bankrupt. These medicinal herbs were like treasures, and they could only be found in some special places. It was equivalent to an extremely large project. Ghost burial flower in the 1,000 ghost abyss? Li Zongjio looked at the introduction in his hand and found the herb he needed. The ghost burial flower had to be at least 1,000 years old. In order to refine a grade 6 elixir, even if it was just some supplementary herbs, it had to be at least 100 years old. Therefore, in order to refine a grade 6 elixir, the sect would usually use all its resources to refine the elixir. Generally, the sect would not open the cauldron to refine the elixir. After all, if the refinement failed, it would take a long time to recover. 1,000-year purple fairy vine. Ghost king nightgrass. Li Zongjio counted a few times. The longevity myriad yuan elixir had gathered the power of the ghost immortals. Even among the grade 6 elixirs, it was one of the best. Therefore, it was extremely difficult to refine. In order to control the power of the ghost immortals, one would need a lot of power. Are you looking for the ghost burial flower? That's not easy to deal with. Just as Li Zongjio was flipping through the pages, an old man in charge of arranging the books in the library noticed the page in Li Zongjio's hand and said. Li Zongjio looked at the latter. The strength of this old man was absolutely unfathomable to ordinary people, but Li Zongjio recognized this person. In his previous life, the Heavenly Day Medicine Manor had faced several crises, and they were almost wiped out. After all, there had been several major incidents. There was also someone who wanted to destroy the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. However, the legendary Mansion Lord never showed up. But as long as the old man of the library took action, the Mansion Lord would leave with his tail between his legs. After knowing that the Mansion Lord was here, the people outside no longer dared to act presumptuously. This old man could be considered the protector of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. His strength was already close to the peak of the Yuan Monarch level. Usually, he would tidy up the books in his hands and live a simple life, rarely showing his face. Li Zongjio did not know the reason why he chose to live in seclusion. After all, he was too lazy to care about the person in front of him. However, later on, he occasionally heard that this old man had already been poisoned many years ago. This kind of poison was usually hidden extremely well. However, once yuan power was used, it would increase the speed of the poison. It was rumored that this poison originated from the great desolate lands. The Mansion Lord, who had not shown his face for many years, was in the Desolation Land, searching for the existence of the detoxification herb. Unfortunately, he did not manage to wait for the Mansion Lord to return. This old man would probably die in 100 years. In his previous life, Li Zongjio had only heard of this news, But he did not take it to heart. After all, at that time, it was difficult for him to even survive, so how could he have the time to listen to the legends of the underworld? It was only when he met the mansion lord of the heavenly day medicine manor that he would occasionally sigh. If he had been in the mansion that day, this would not have happened. Li Zongjio did not know the name of this old man. At the very least, he could only protect himself in front of this old man. It was impossible for him to shake this old man in the slightest. A pinnacle Yuan monarch powerhouse was not someone who could be so easily shaken. "Senior, do you know about this ghost burial flower?" Li Zongjio asked. Regardless of whether it was in his previous life, this old man was Li Zongjio's senior. Therefore, it did not matter if he addressed him as such. Li Zongjio was not always so arrogant in front of everyone. "I know about it, but why do you want this evil thing?" the old man asked. Once this ghost burial flower was born, there would be no life within a radius of 10,000 miles. This kind of power was not something an ordinary Yuan master could withstand. If one got close, one would be devoured by this ghost burial flower. Unless one's cultivation had reached the Yuan King realm, only then would one be able to withstand it. "To refine elixirs," Li Zongjio replied. "Can such an evil thing be used to refine elixirs? Are you refining poison?" the old man asked curiously. "Of course not. What is evil? Is anything that can kill evil? Power itself is not divided into good and evil. There is no need to test me on this point. If you have something to ask of me, you can get straight to the point. You and I are not the kind of people who drag things out," Li Zongjio said nonchalantly. At this point, Li Zongjio had already guessed the old man's intentions. He also knew that this old man was deliberately testing him. Li Zongjio was able to see through the old man's methods and intentions. After learning about it, he directly explained the situation. The old man seemed to be a little surprised by Li Zongjio's discovery and tried his best to disguise himself. "There is no need to disguise yourself. Why bother hiding your cultivation at the peak of the Yuan King realm in such a place, right?" When Li Zongjio said this, the old man's expression changed. He was extremely shocked. How did Li Zongjio know that his cultivation was at such a level? When the old man took a closer look at Li Zongjio, he actually discovered that Li Zongjio had the strength of a grade 9 Yuan master. He was even more shocked. You actually possess the cultivation of a 9th grade Yuan ancestor. Such a monstrous talent. Who exactly are you?" The old man in the library was extremely shocked. A grade 9 Yuan master was not a cultivation level that Li Zongjio should have at his age. Even if he did, he should not have appeared in a place like Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. Who I am is not important. However, if you are unable to remove the great desolate sky scorpion's poison in your body within 10 years, your cultivation will be completely devoured. Li Zongjio once again said something that made the old man extremely shocked. "Who exactly are you?" The old man's gaze suddenly turned sharp. Chapter 447. Don't be nervous. You should have already investigated who I am. Even the records of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor are clearly written down. You can check them at any time. Li Zongjio said. After all, the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor was a top-notch institution. They would definitely have a complete information system. The background of the students would definitely be thoroughly investigated. This was also a method to obtain resources. It did not mean that the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor wanted to obtain anything from the students. It was because the higher-ups had to make preparations. The old man in the library looked at Li Zongjio silently. Indeed, before approaching Li Zongjio, he had already read all the information about Li Zongjio. He also knew the identity of this Li Zongjio. However, he did not expect Li Zongjio to know so much. Since you know about the Desolation Sky Scorpion, do you know how to detoxify the poison of this sky scorpion? The old man probed, hoping to hear a positive answer from Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio also pondered for a moment, as if he was thinking about something. As long as you can help me detoxify the poison of this sky scorpion, I will agree to whatever you want. In the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, I can directly give you the position of an elder. Even the guy who had a conflict with you at the entrance can leave at any time. In the future, it will not be a problem for you to do whatever you want in Monarch City. The old man was clearly excited. He even made so many promises just to get Li Zongjio to help him detoxify the poison. Clearly, this matter had been bothering him for a long time. He was even a little impatient. The poison of this sky scorpion is naturally nothing special, Li Zongjio said faintly. Originally, he wanted to personally make a trip to the abyss of 1,000 ghosts. However, it seemed that he had already found a means of transportation. Moreover, this person had taken the initiative to come to him. This made Li Zongjio feel a little disappointed. The heavens were really helping him. Just tell me, what are the conditions for you to remove the poison from my body? The old man said. Seeing Li Zongjio's slow manner, he couldn't wait to directly hold a knife to Li Zongjio's neck and interrogate him. However, the old man was clearly aware of Li Zongjio's strength. Such a formidable young man was truly rare. Didn't I say that I want to concoct pills? However, these herbs are still a little difficult for me. Moreover, I don't have that much time to look for these things. If you want me to help you, help me find these herbs first. Li Zongjio handed the slip of paper to the old man. The old man casually skimmed through the names in front of him and felt as though his scalp was about to explode. This kid was clearly treating him as a laborer and asking him to sacrifice his life for free. If he died in the process of searching for these herbs, who would he look for? Most importantly, the old man wasn't sure if Li Zongjio had the ability to remove the poison from his body. Previously, there were many geniuses in the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. The old man had also secretly guided them on this path, but they didn't seem to have the ability to do so. Although some of them were able to figure it out, there was no way out. However, in the end, there was nothing he could do. After all, the primordial sky scorpion's poison was too cruel and overbearing. Even though he was a peak Yuan monarch, he could barely suppress the poison within his body. He couldn't move at all. As of now, his cultivation could be considered to have been crippled. Young man, it won't be easy for you to find these herbs. What the old man meant was that he wanted Li Zongjio to tell him if he really had the ability to treat his poison. Naturally, you don't have to worry about whether I have the ability to detoxify the poison. What good would it do me to lie to you? Li Zongjio said. This was the conversation of a smart person. The old man also understood that as long as Li Zongjio didn't intend to commit suicide, he wouldn't choose to provoke a peak Yuan monarch powerhouse. Alright, you are a smart person. I believe you. Don't worry. At the very least, I can guarantee that no one in the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor will dare touch you during this period of time. The old man said solemnly. Li Zongjio nodded in satisfaction. You have 5 months from now. If you exceed this time, I won't need to look for you anymore. Do you understand? Therefore, your time is also very tight. Li Zongjio patted the old man's shoulder. He didn't want to give the old man any chance to drag things out. However, before Li Zongjio could walk out of the library, a group of people in black robes walked in. When they saw Li Zongjio, one of them immediately flashed a sign. Academic Affairs Department, someone has reported that you have maliciously injured another person. You have the right to remain silent. However, we will record everything you say and take you away. The person who had just arrived didn't say anything else. With a wave of his hand, he was about to order the person to be taken away. Li Zongjio, on the other hand, sneered and stood still. How much money did you receive to actually do such a thing? Li Zongjio said. When the person from the Academic Affairs Department heard this, he knew that Li Zongjio was indeed arrogant. He actually dared to go against the people from the Academic Affairs Department. Could it be that this guy didn't want to stay in the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manor anymore? If the Academic Affairs Department wanted to chase him away, no one would be able to stay safely. You're courting death. Take him away. I want to interrogate him properly. Put on a hood. The person who led the group said sternly. Li Zongjio wasn't in a hurry to resist. He just stood there without moving. There was no need for him to deal with these matters now. All of you stop. Just as the people from the Academic Affairs Department were about to take action, an old man's roar came from behind. Then the old man from the library walked out. This Li Zongjio is from my library. Audiobook scram. After the old man appeared, he said without any trace of politeness. It was as if this wave of his hand was enough to send people flying. The people from the Academic Affairs Department were pushed back a few steps by this palm. They originally wanted to retaliate in anger. However, they suddenly thought of something and immediately widened their eyes. They looked at the old man in front of them with a trace of shock in their eyes. Then, they looked at the old man with incomparable shock. Sorry to disturb you. We'll leave now. We'll leave now. The head of the Academic Affairs Department immediately waved his hand and led the people away. At this moment, the people who were standing at the side and waiting to watch a good show were also shocked. How could this be? You guys, aren't you going to arrest him? Li Zongjio calmly walked past that person and patted him on the shoulder. I pity your Xiang. That person was stunned when he heard this. Xiang, a Xianger is innocent. Chapter 448. Sacred Flame Royal City. In the southeast corner of the city, there was a white-clothed person. He was dressed delicately and looked like a scholar. The paper fan in his hand was constantly flapping his palm. Behind the scholar, there was also an old lady with a walking stick. She was trying her best to follow the white-clothed person. Young lady, please slow down. I can't keep up with you. The old woman's body was stooped as she continued to walk forward. However, the white-clothed woman's body was incomparably vigorous. In a short while, she had already walked far away, causing the old woman to constantly shuttle through the crowd. After much difficulty, the old woman finally brought the white-clothed woman to an inn for the time being. We'll stay here tonight. Tomorrow, we'll go to the auction and buy back our compassionate travel sex things. The old lady said leisurely. Then, she ordered 2 bowls of plain noodles. Granny, since it's our things, why do we have to buy it? Because we're not strong enough now. The old lady said. This was a sore spot. It made it difficult for the old lady to talk about it. She wished that her cultivation could slowly increase. In that case, she wouldn't have to worry about the treaty in the secular world. She could directly snatch the things that belonged to their sect. Then how strong do we have to be? The white-clothed woman wasn't old. While waiting for the noodles to be served, she also used 2 chopsticks to poke her 2 dimples. She looked at the old lady in front of her with a bored expression. Because ever since she could remember things, her granny had been repeatedly saying that they weren't strong enough, but they were strong enough. Moreover, she would quickly say that you'll know when you grow up. When you grow up, you'll know. Granny said. The noodles are here. 2 bowls of plain noodles. Please, let's eat the noodles. The white-clothed woman raised her chopsticks excitedly. Soon, she finished the bowl of noodles in front of her. This bowl is also yours. Thank you, Granny. The white-clothed woman unceremoniously ate all the noodles on the table. The old lady looked at the girl in front of her with an extremely doting gaze. This was the hope of their sex future. On the other side, although something like that happened in the Zhao family's territory, they still had to do what they had to do. However, what should be done still had to be done. After all, the Zhao family was also a victim. Some of the items that had yet to be auctioned had to be taken out for auction. If they could not be delivered on time, their auction house would also bear the risk. Therefore, they continued to announce to the public that they would continue to auction the stone steels of the compassionate travel sect. Because of the previous incident, there were even rumors that Yi Lantian had offended someone he could not afford to offend and was dealt with by someone else. In addition, this incident also gave the compassionate travel sect's stone tablet a sense of mystery. Of course, it was very likely that the Zhao family was manipulating public opinion behind the scenes and making up for the benefits. The location of the second auction was changed to the Cool Breeze Inn. What was surprising was that Zhao Jingxian was also interested in Li Zongjio after the previous incident. There must be something behind this Li Zongjio. If he could grasp this opportunity well, it would be an extremely important beginning for the Zhao family. However, this time, Zhao Jingxian did not have the time to look for Li Zongjio to participate in this auction. Someone had already come to look for him. The person who came caught Zhao Jingxian off guard. He could not believe that this person would come to look for him. You know Li Zongjio, right? Qi Yanran said indifferently and glanced at Zhao Jingxian. Zhao Jingxian nodded repeatedly. I know him, I know him. I want to meet him at your auction. Can you help me arrange it? You have the final say on how much it is. Qi Yanran said. These words made Zhao Jingxian a little confused. What did she mean? She wanted to meet Li Zongjio at the Zhao family's auction? Were the two of them going on a date or something? Why were they so mysterious? Were they doing something behind the scenes? However, Zhao Jingxian was also a smart person. Qi Yanran was a person who was difficult to get in touch with. If Qi Yanran did not take the initiative to look for Zhao Jingxian, it would be difficult for Zhao Jingxian to get in touch with Qi Yanran. He naturally understood Qi Yanran's request. Moreover, this was such a good opportunity. How could he accept Qi Yanran's money? Miss Qi, don't worry. Leave this small matter to me. I won't accept a single cent, Zhao Jingxian said with a smile. I owe you a favor. After Qi Yanran finished speaking, she turned and left. This made Zhao Jingxian smile even more in his heart. This was not a big matter and he actually got a favor from Qi Yanran. This was the top genius of the Qi family, one of the 4 great families. Her words were even more effective than the words of the Qi family's head. Before Zhao Jingxian could arrange these things. Soon, another person came to look for Zhao Jingxian. Brother Shu, what brings you here? It's so rare to see you. When Zhao Jingxian saw the person who came, he was suddenly shocked. What kind of wind was blowing in the Holy Flame Royal City today? It actually blew all these people, who would not normally see each other for 8 lifetimes, here. Shu in front of him was a complete cultivation maniac. If he did not cultivate, he would die. Therefore, Shu spent almost all his time on cultivation. Time was very precious. Earlier, many people came to him to ask for pills, but they were all rejected. This was because he did not have the time to refine pills for others. Now that Shu appeared in front of him, Zhao Jingxian was shocked. This is my notes on refining pills. I want to pawn it to you. Hearing Shu's words, Zhao Jingxuan's face suddenly showed a surprised expression. Although Shu's status in the Shi family was not high, it was a matter of the past. To be able to cultivate Shu to his current strength step by step, the Shi family had obviously put in a lot of capital. Otherwise, it would not be so easy to cultivate a 4th-grade alchemist. Now, Shu did not have any power in the Shi family, nor did he have any income. However, he was a great signboard. A 4th-grade alchemist was welcomed by any family. Naturally, the Shi family would protect him. Such a person should not be lacking in money. Brother Shu, you have come to me because you think highly of me. How can I take your life's work? Tell me, how much do you want? Zhao Jingxian said generously. The main reason was that he was in a good mood today. He didn't expect that these people, whom he usually didn't see, would take the initiative to come to him. This was a very proud thing. Even Qi Yanran owed him a favor. Just thinking about it made him very excited. 5 billion purple yuan. Chapter 449. When he heard this amount, Zhao Jingxuan's legs almost went soft. Originally, he had thought that this stone tree would at most cost 7 or 800 million purple yuan, which was already the limit. But when he opened his mouth, he actually asked for 5 billion purple yuan. Where would he find so much money to give to this young man? This immediately put Zhao Jingxian in a difficult position. Shu also knew that this was a huge sum that ordinary people wouldn't be able to afford. Therefore, he went to look for Zhao Jingxian, who was one of the 4 great families. From what he knew, Zhao Jingxian was very rich. His daily squandering was extremely extravagant. Therefore, looking for Zhao Jingxian was the most likely to succeed. If it was Qi Yanran who came to borrow money, then Zhao Jingxian would go bankrupt and sell everything he had to raise the money for her, because Qi Yanran's identity and status were different. She had unlimited potential. As for Shu, although Shu's strength was very strong, Shu was already at his limit. However, the situation inside Shu's body was like an arrow at the end of its flight, a lamp that was about to run out of oil. Once the money was lent to Shu, who would be able to get the money back from him? Therefore, even Zhao Jingxian didn't dare to do this. Brother Shu, it's not that I, Zhao Jingxian, don't want to help you. It's just that this amount, even for me, is like a moat. Zhao Jingxian couldn't voice his own bitterness. A few days ago, at the auction, he had spent 100 million purple yuan out of his own pocket to buy an item that was only worth 2 million purple yuan and then gave it to someone else. This was the most sullen thing. He had lost 100 million purple yuan for no reason. How much money would he have to earn? Hearing this, a trace of sadness flashed across Shu's eyes. Over the past few days, he had done his best to convince his mother to borrow 5 billion purple yuan from the Shu clan. This move alone had shaken the status of the Shu clan's patriarch, who was also Shu's father. This was because Shu's mother was only a maidservant of the patriarch of the Shu clan. Therefore, in order to gather the 5 billion purple yuan, Shu had to go through a lot of torture and training. In the process, Shu realized that this was the real trial. These physical ailments were never true tribulations, but the ways of the world. This alchemy notebook of his was the result of many years of hard work. If it wasn't a last resort, he wouldn't have taken out this notebook, but Shu was disappointed. If he couldn't get 10 billion, then he wouldn't have any chance. This was his only chance. Seeing that the stone tree was about to turn and leave, Zhao Jingxian felt as if he saw a person turn and walk into the darkness. This gave Zhao Jingxian a strange feeling. If it was in the past, Zhao Jingxian wouldn't care if you lived or died. Brother Shu, may I ask what you need so much money for? Zhao Jingxian asked. Find someone to treat. Shu said with a bitter taste in his mouth. He did not expect that after so many years of illness, he would be overwhelmed by money at this crucial moment. Who is it? Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, Li Zongjio. Shu said. This wasn't a secret and there was nothing to hide. Since he had already said it, he could only wait and see if anyone would want his alchemy notes in the black market. What? Li Zongjio again? Brother Shu, wait. Zhao Jingxian hurriedly stopped Shu. When he heard Shu mention Li Zongjio, Zhao Jingxian understood why he felt that something was wrong. It was because this matter was related to Li Zongjio. Could this Li Zongjio be a god? Because of this Li Zongjio, all these people that he normally wouldn't see gathered around him. However, Zhao Jingxian thought about it and realized that it was because Li Zongjio had received his invitation to participate in this auction. In the eyes of outsiders, he had formed a friendship with Li Zongjio. That was why Qi Yanran came to find him. You're saying that you want these 5 billion purple yuan in order to find Li Zongjio to treat your hidden illness? Shu's illness was already an open secret. There was no cure for the disease of dry meridians. Could it be that Li Zongjio had the ability to cure this disease? In an instant, Zhao Jingxian felt that his future was bright. If Li Zongjio could really cure the disease of dry meridians without many people knowing about it, then Li Zongjio would become a secret that only Zhao Jingxian knew. If he could establish a cooperative relationship with Li Zongjio, it would be like unearthing a primordial stone mine hidden in the sea. Such a matter was simply an opportunity for the Zhao family to make a lot of money every day. Most importantly, it was he, Zhao Jingxian, who had set up this line. In the future, there would be a great opportunity to help him succeed. However, the price of this stepping stone was a little expensive. It required a total of 5 billion. It's 10 billion. Li Zongjio asked for 10 billion. I have already borrowed 5 billion from the Shu family. Now, I am still short of 5 billion. Shu said slowly. Looking at Zhao Jingxuan's surprised eyes, he couldn't help but feel a little strange. Was there something wrong with this guy's eyes? So that's how it is. Brother Shu, give me the 5 billion. Give me 3 days. I will help you settle it, but regarding Li Zongjio's help, you must keep it a secret for me. How about it? Even if it's the Shu family, you can't reveal it. I won't charge you any interest. Zhao Jingxian said immediately. With Shu's intelligence, he immediately understood Zhao Jingxuan's thoughts. Although Zhao Jingxian wanted to make use of Li Zongjio, the most important thing for Shu now was to cure his illness. Nothing else mattered. 3 days is too long. I only have 2 days left. If I can't gather the money in 2 days, I will miss the deadline. Shu said. 5 days had passed since the day of the competition. Today was the 6th day. If he couldn't gather the money by tomorrow, he would really die. 2 days fight. Zhao Jingxian gritted his teeth. If he used his own resources, it wouldn't be difficult to transfer 5 billion. After all, he was borrowing and not directly asking for it. In that case, thank you Brother Zhao for your help. After this, Shu will definitely repay your kindness. Chapter 450. Although Shu had entrusted the task to Zhao Jingxian, he wasn't idle. He had some elixirs that he had refined in the past. If he sold them, they could be exchanged for some money. Although it was a drop in the bucket compared to 10 billion, it was still his full strength. He couldn't just sit and wait for death. In the heavenly star medicine manner. The first person to look for Li Zongjio wasn't Zhao Jingshuan's men, nor was it the special envoy department. It was the 7-star fire room. 7-star fire room's invitation card? I'm not free. Li Zongjio received the invitation card from the 7-star fire room and threw it to the side. The 7-star fire room was a huge source of income. If he could establish a relationship with the 7-star fire room, he would definitely be able to earn a huge sum of money. With this money tree, he wouldn't have to worry about not having enough money in the future. However, when the guard at the door saw Li Zongjio throw the invitation card away, he immediately gave Li Zongjio a thumbs up in his heart. He was simply too awesome. Young Master Li, please wait. Li Zongjio was about to make a trip to the relay station to send a letter back to ask about the current situation in the family. However, he was stopped by a woman. Judging from her attire, she should be a maid with a high status. At the very least, her eyes did not have the expression of an ordinary maid. Instead, there was a light in her eyes that belonged to an intelligent person. This was a confidence that ordinary maids didn't have. At this moment, she stood in front of Li Zongjio with a certain amount of confidence. It wasn't only because of her intelligence, but also because of her appearance. However, Li Zongjio didn't stop walking. He walked straight past her. No matter how big the world was, it wasn't as big as writing a letter back. The maid, Xiao Zhao, was sent by Song Jiu. She was also Song Jiu's right-hand woman. Many things were handled by Xiao Zhao. She naturally knew that with Li Zongjio's unruly character, it was impossible to invite him over with just an invitation card. She had to personally appear. Therefore, after delivering the letter, she waited at the side for Li Zongjio to appear. In less than half an hour, she saw Li Zongjio come out. She immediately came out and wanted to call out to Li Zongjio. However, Li Zongjio acted as if he didn't hear her and walked past her. This immediately made Xiao Zhao feel as if she had no face left. I, a great beauty, am standing right in front of you, and you actually ignored me. Although Xiao Zhao admitted that she didn't have the temperament of a young lady, in the eyes of ordinary people, she was already a top beauty. Young Master Li, wait a moment. I'm from the 7-star fire room. Xiao Zhao immediately lifted her skirt and chased after Li Zongjio. She wanted to talk to Li Zongjio. However, Li Zongjio still walked quickly. Do you have a carriage? Li Zongjio suddenly turned his head and asked. Carriage? Yes, it's right there. Xiao Zhao pointed at the carriage that was parked not far behind them. A red horse was standing quietly in front of it. The interior of the carriage could only be considered mediocre. Get on. Li Zongjio directly got on the carriage. Xiao Zhao didn't react. Did Li Zongjio agree or not? If he didn't agree, then why did he get on her carriage? Moreover, a man and a woman alone in a carriage. If someone saw this, how was she going to explain it? Are you coming up or not? Li Zongjio lifted the curtain and shouted at Xiao Zhao. Xiao Zhao stood in the same place. She was immediately embarrassed by Li Zongjio's actions. What was the meaning of this? Could it be that this Li Zongjio wanted her to serve him? Bah, how could he be so shameless? He actually wanted to rely on the Mrs. Favor to make such an excessive request. However, when she thought about it, Li Zongjio was the #1 genius in the Heavenly Dawn Medicine Manners freshman list. A few days ago, he defeated everyone in the 3 Great Medicine Manners Exchange competition and obtained the first place. At the same time, he also obtained the qualifications of an imperial alchemist. Thinking about it this way, this Li Zongjio was indeed very outstanding. At the very least, he was definitely a top-notch existence among his peers. While she was thinking, she actually got into the carriage without anyone noticing. To the courier station. The coachman immediately urged the carriage and set off leisurely. Since Lord Xiaozhao didn't say that he would chase Li Zongjio away, the coachman naturally didn't dare to. "What do you want from me? Just say it," Li Zongjio asked. There were quite a lot of things that happened recently. First, there was the matter of the Great Joy Casino. Then, there was the matter of the Azure Dragon Gang. Then, there was the matter of the Great Desolate Sky Scorpion's poison. Now, the 7-star fire room was looking for him. He didn't know what they wanted from him. This is our 7-star fire room's newest Yuan tool, Raging Dragon Capturing. Xiaozhao took out a picture book. At first, he thought that Li Zongjio was going to go berserk the moment he got on the carriage. At that time, Xiaozhao was still thinking about whether he should kick him off. However, looking at Li Zongjio's eyes, it seemed that he was completely uninterested in him. This made Xiaozhao feel a little disappointed. "I know, get to the point." Xiaozhao looked at Li Zongjio in astonishment. This Raging Dragon Capturing was the newest Yuan tool. As a man, he should at least be curious about this Yuan tool. However, looking at Li Zongjio's expression, it seemed like he really knew about this Raging Dragon Capturing. "We would like to invite you to be the spokesperson for Raging Dragon Capturing. In return, the 7-star fire room will give you a new sample of every new Raging Flames dragon slaying flames," Xiaozhao said. Every time there was an update, he would send a copy to Li Zongjio. "How do I endorse it? Hold it and speak?" Li Zongjio asked. Li Zongjio also had a good impression of this Raging Dragon Capturing. If it wasn't for this Raging Dragon Capturing, Li Zongjio would have been killed by his enemies long ago. As for whether his enemies from back then would become his enemies in this world, Li Zongjio still had to wait and see. If there were any signs of it, Li Zongjio would directly kill him. "You agree?" Xiaozhao was a little surprised. After all, this kind of thing was something that most people would consider for a long time. Of course, it wasn't really considered, but in order to obtain more benefits, they would ask for a higher price. That was why they kept delaying it. There had never been anyone who could directly agree to it. Therefore, Xiaozhao was a little surprised. "If it's not too troublesome, I've been quite busy recently," Li Zongjio said. Xiaozhao didn't expect this cooperation to be settled so quickly. "It's not troublesome. On the 10th day of the 10th month, there will be a Yuan weapon display on the peak of Golden Mountain. At that time, you only need to use this Raging Dragon Capturing to defeat the other Yuan weapons." In King City, the 7-star fire room wasn't the only one developing Yuan weapons. There would also be many people who would come to study this Yuan tool. If they were able to create a powerful Yuan tool, they would definitely become the center of attention. For many people, this was also a grand event, an opportunity to truly showcase themselves. Chapter 451. October 10th was definitely a big day in the Yuan weapon world. Many Yuan weapon grandmasters in the Sacred Flame Royal City would take out their own Yuan weapons in hopes of breaking through the encirclement of Yuan weapons. The competition was naturally an extremely cruel thing. However, if one could emerge victorious, one's reputation would definitely soar. Regardless of whether it was the designer of the Yuan weapon or the merchant behind it, they would all benefit immensely. 10th of October? That's next month. Sure. Li Zongjio nodded. "All right then. It's not that Mr. Li doesn't trust you. However, both of us have to sign an authorization contract. It's also for the sake of going through the process and ensuring that there's a guarantee." Xiaozhao took out a contract in his hand. However, he spoke very carefully because he was worried that Li Zongjio would get angry. One must know that many experts would think that he was looking down on Li Zongjio by signing this contract. They would think that Li Zongjio was an untrustworthy person. Therefore, every time they reached this stage, they would need to coax and coax. However, Li Zongjio was very straightforward and directly pressed his thumb on the contract. The contract was just a joke. To a true expert, it was useless. It was also useless for petty people. This was just an agreement between gentlemen. Of course, this was under the condition that Li Zongjio was strong. If Li Zongjio was really just an ordinary disciple of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, the 7-star fire room would have 100 ways to get back their benefits. Xiao Zhao heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Li Zongjio press his thumb on the contract. Originally, a business negotiation of this level should be a piece of cake for Xiao Zhao. However, when he faced Li Zongjio, he couldn't help but feel some other emotions. He even felt that Li Zongjio was a very difficult person to deal with. After all, he dared to kick Han Wuxiu, the commander of the Special Envoys Department, in front of so many people. That was a pretty awesome thing. That was why Xiao Zhao thought that Li Zongjio's temper wasn't that good. However, after interacting with Li Zongjio for a while, Xiao Zhao realized that Li Zongjio wasn't as irritable and dissatisfied as he thought. He even had violent tendencies. Although he was a little cold and aloof, he still gave people a feeling that he was very reasonable. Congratulations, young Master Li. I hope that our future cooperation will be even more pleasant. Xiao Zhao said with a smile. He reached out his hand and wanted to shake hands with Li Zongjio. At this moment, the carriage suddenly jolted. The force of the jolting caused Xiao Zhao to almost fly towards Li Zongjio. Li Zongjio pushed Xiao Zhao back to his seat with one hand. This made Xiao Zhao feel ashamed and angry. What's going on outside? Lord Xiao Zhao, it's the Special Envoys Department. They are inspecting the carriage. Because the relay station wasn't far from the city gate, if they were to go near the relay station, they would have to conduct a strict inspection. These days, it could be said that a bloody storm had been secretly stirred up in the sacred flame royal city. Someone had to settle this storm of blood and carnage. Now, the person to handle this storm was Sima Xingyan. His subordinates were also investigating day and night. They had to find the assassin that day. It was said that an unidentified person was caught at the scene on that day. Moreover, he was armed with a murder weapon and had disguised himself. He was directly arrested and sent to the Special Envoys Department's prison. He was being interrogated and was most likely left with half his life. Don't they know that this is the 7-star fire company's carriage? Xiao Zhao's face suddenly turned ugly. Although Xiao Zhao wasn't someone with a high status, this carriage had the 7-star fire company's flag. If they were to move around in the city, other ordinary carriages would have to make way for them. And this kind of inspection was the most common method. It was basically not used on people like them. After all, they did not pay a huge amount of taxes every year for nothing. If they didn't pay the taxes and pay the money, the Special Envoys Department wouldn't have the money to buy equipment. They didn't even know where to get their offerings. Everyone in the carriage, get down. Suddenly, there was a loud bang outside the carriage. It was extremely rough. Stop. Xiao Zhao couldn't stand it anymore. She walked out of the carriage and found that there was a long line in front of her. Everyone was being inspected. Is this how the Special Envoys Department does things? We are all law-abiding citizens. You have the right to inspect, but you have no right to slap our carriage. Who taught you to do things like this? After Xiao Zhao walked out, she immediately reprimanded. That person was just an executive emissary. It was just that he had been doing these things for the past few days, so his temper was really bad. He didn't expect to meet a little hedgehog like Xiao Zhao. This gave them a headache. However, as a member of the Special Envoys Department, they couldn't possibly lower their heads to a maid from the 7-star fire company. These people were taught by me. Do you have any objections? Just when the executive emissary didn't know how to respond. It was a calm voice with a hint of aggression. His tone was also extremely domineering. After seeing this, the surrounding executive emissaries immediately bowed to the person who came. Greetings, Commander. Greetings, Commander. When Xiao Zhao saw the person who came, his expression changed. This was because the person who came was the commander, Han Wuxiu. How dare a mere maidservant in the 7-star fire room criticize a special envoy from the Special Envoy Department of the Imperial Court? Are you trying to rebel? Take her down. Han Wuxiu had become a little strange recently. Ever since he was slapped twice by Li Zongjio, his entire person seemed to have become gloomy. When he saw Xiao Zhao, he even dared to criticize his subordinates and shout at them. If the person who came down from the carriage today was Song Jiyu, perhaps things would have calmed down a little. After all, Song Jiyu's status was not to be trifled with. However, a mere maid by Song Jiyu's side dared to show off in front of him. "I'm afraid that you're mistaken." Xiao Zhao's face instantly turned pale. Originally, she was worried that the other party's behavior would offend Li Zongjio. If she was alone, although she would be dissatisfied, she would naturally let it go easily. However, now that Li Zongjio was in the carriage, he didn't do anything after frightening the guest. It was inevitable that Li Zongjio would be dissatisfied. However, what was even more unexpected was that she had offended Han Wuxiu because of this. Everyone knew that the consequences of offending Han Wuxiu would be miserable. Just when the special envoys rushed up and surrounded the carriage, a figure came out from the carriage. Another figure walked out from the carriage and supported Xiao Zhao, whose legs were trembling. Li Zongjio's face was filled with contempt and anger. "I was wondering why I could smell the smell of shit from afar. It turns out that you're blocking my way again." Chapter 452. Li Zongjio stepped down from the carriage. When Han Wuxiu saw Li Zongjio, he had mixed feelings. First of all, he wanted to draw his sword and chop off Li Zongjio's head, then kick it around like a ball. However, when he thought of Li Zongjio's strength, Li Zongjio's special status, and the warning from his father-in-law, Han Wuxiu could not help but feel a chill down his spine. It was hard for Han Wuxiu to harden his heart and pull out his sword. "What are you looking at? You're not convinced, are you? It seems like the 2 slaps from last time did not leave a deep impression on you." Li Zongjio's palm waved a few times in the air, as if he was playing with water. Han Wuxiu subconsciously took a step back, afraid that Li Zongjio's slap would land on his body. "So it's Lord Li? Then there's no need to investigate. Let him go." In the end, Han Wuxiu chose to bear with it for the time being. He did not have any evidence against Li Zongjio, so he had to wait until Han Wuxiu found something that could be used against Li Zongjio or created an opportunity. Li Zongjio only needed a moment to consign Li Zongjio, the so-called imperial alchemist, to eternal damnation. Han Wuxiu knew that he had to wait for such an opportunity. Therefore, it was not the right time to start a conflict with Li Zongjio. He immediately called his men back and prepared to leave. When he saw that Han Wuxiu and his men were about to leave, Xiao Zhao heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, he stole a glance at Li Zongjio, who stood up for him. "Stop right there." However, Li Zongjio did not intend to let it go so easily. "When did I say that you could leave? You piece of shit!" Li Zongjio shouted. His voice was so loud that almost everyone around could hear him. Was this piece of shit used to describe Lord Han Wuxiu? Some of the executive envoys were scared out of their wits. Some of them were newcomers and hadn't been in the joyous heavenly restaurant at that time. They had seen Li Zongjio's incomparably arrogant scene with their own eyes. None of them wasn't shocked after seeing it. This was the commander. A casual sentence from him could make Li Zongjio lose his head. Was Li Zongjio really not afraid of losing his head? It was one thing to watch the show, but it was another thing to truly participate in it. Xiao Zhao was both happy and sad at the same time. She was completely at a loss because she didn't know whether she should thank Li Zongjio or blame him for ruining her plan. He was right, he was the commander. Was the commander's head. This time, the commander might hold a grudge against the 7-star fire room. Seeing that the people around them were basically Han Wuxiu's men, if Li Zongjio was really angered, he would be charged with obstructing an official's mission. That would be enough to send Li Zongjio to the heavenly prison and give him 100 beatings. He would let Li Zongjio know how powerful he was. "Li Zongjio, what do you want? Do you insist on making me your enemy?" Han Wuxiu was like an enraged lion as he glared at Li Zongjio with a pair of calm eyes. It was as if he wanted to see through Li Zongjio with his eyes. Han Wuxiu had thoroughly investigated Li Zongjio's background. If he could not deal with Li Zongjio, it would not be difficult for him to deal with Li Zongjio's family. That was why Han Wuxiu acted this way. However, That was his last resort. If he wanted to do that, he would have to be prepared to withstand Li Zongjio's revenge. Now that Li Zongjio was being so aggressive, Han Wuxiu had already given Li Zongjio enough face by taking a step back. But now, Li Zongjio still dared to cause trouble. This made Han Wuxiu feel like he was riding a tiger, but he had no choice. If Li Zongjio really didn't give him face, he would fight with Li Zongjio on the spot. A real man would rather die than submit. Making you my enemy? You think too much. You scared my friend just now. If you don't apologize and get my friend's forgiveness, you don't have to go back today. Li Zongjio said indifferently. Making you my enemy? In Li Zongjio's eyes, calling you a pile of shit was already praising you. You still want to be Li Zongjio's enemy? Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself in the mirror? It turned out that Li Zongjio had made things difficult for the commander in order to save her face. In an instant, when Xiao Zhao understood this, she felt a surge of warmth in her heart. She, Xiao Zhao, was just a maidservant of the Seven Stars Firehouse's young miss, Song Jiyu. Who would care about her life or her feelings? If it wasn't for the fact that she had her own talent and intelligence, which allowed her to be placed in an important position by the young miss, she might have already been sent to some unknown place. Furthermore, with her appearance, it was extremely easy for her to attract some criminals. When that time came, her life would definitely not be so easy. Therefore, Xiao Zhao was also a very strong-willed person. She knew that as a maidservant, if she wanted to stand out, besides being loyal, she had to learn to endure humiliation. Only then would she have the chance to stand out. For Xiao Zhao, this was already a law of nature. Therefore, Han Wuxiu didn't put her in his eyes at all. Even when Han Wuxiu wanted to capture her, she couldn't do anything. If Li Zongjio wasn't here today, she wouldn't have been able to escape this calamity. Even if the young lady didn't come to save her, it was still a question. Everything depended on the value. However, Li Zongjio was different. The moment Li Zongjio stepped out, he came to stand up for her. If he wanted to help her out, he would have just let them leave. However, he wanted Han Wuxiu to apologize. It was obvious that he wanted to help her get back her dignity. Li Zongjio, I'm the commander of the Special Envoy Department. How dare you ask me to apologize? Han Wuxiu was naturally unwilling. His voice was as sonorous as iron, and he immediately confronted Li Zongjio. After all, it was important to know that things like face were not something a man could accept. What was his status? He was the commander of the Special Envoy Department. Xiao Zhao, on the other hand, was just a maidservant by Song Jiyu's side. To put it bluntly, she was just a servant. How could he, the commander, apologize to a servant? Was this reasonable? In Han Wuxiu's heart, this was more difficult than killing him. Oh, I've already given you a chance. You're the one who didn't want it. Li Zongjio immediately rolled up his sleeves, revealing his wrists as if he was ready to show off his skills. However, when he saw Li Zongjio's actions, Han Wuxiu's eyelids twitched. He even began to feel a burning pain on his face. Wait a minute. Chapter 453. Han Wuxiu said subconsciously. If Li Zongjio were to make a move, Han Wuxiu knew that Li Zongjio must have taken some kind of elixir to increase his cultivation to such a terrifying level. Even after nearly 30 years of hard work, Han Wuxiu was still unable to catch up with Li Zongjio. That day in the joyous heavenly restaurant, he had already noticed that with Li Zongjio's strength, he had no chance of winning. Only if 3 or more commanders made a move at the same time would they have a chance to subdue Li Zongjio. Now that he saw Li Zongjio, he was worried that Li Zongjio would give him a few more slaps in front of so many people. After all, this was the city gate. With so many pairs of eyes and so many mouths coming and going, if everyone recounted what happened today, it would be enough to spread across the entire Great River. When that time came, he would really lose all his dignity and face. In comparison, it was just an apology. But it was still better than being slapped in the face. A real man knows when to yield and when to stand tall. Han Wuxiu gritted his teeth and pulled out the long saber at his waist. He threw the long saber on the ground in front of everyone. No one knew what Han Wuxiu was doing. Li Zongjio looked at Han Wuxiu with interest. If this guy was a little more unreasonable, Li Zongjio would skin him alive. When Han Wuxiu went to pick up his saber, he knelt down on one knee and cupped his hands towards Xiao Zhao and Li Zongjio in the carriage. Miss Xiao Zhao, I was reckless this time. Please forgive me. When Han Wuxiu finished speaking, he felt as if he had suffered the greatest humiliation in his life. Everyone's gazes had turned into long whips that lashed at him mercilessly, bringing him intense pain and endless grievances. He swallowed them all down into his stomach. Xiao Zhao never thought that Han Wuxiu would really kneel down and apologize to her. Her beautiful eyes widened as she looked at the scene in front of her in disbelief. She looked at Li Zongjio and then at Han Wuxiu, who was kneeling on one knee on the ground. Just one sentence and one action was enough to make the commander of the Special Envoy Department bow his head and apologize. What kind of strength did he need to be to do this? Let's go. Li Zongjio did not give Xiao Zhao a chance to speak. He pulled Xiao Zhao into the carriage and ordered the coachman to continue forward. Han Wuxiu, who was still kneeling on one knee on the ground, was left on the ground. The carriage left with twigs and twigs, which seemed to be a form of silent contempt. Li Zongjio did not want Han Wuxiu to apologize. To Li Zongjio, Han Wuxiu had to kneel if he wanted Han Wuxiu to do so. Han Wuxiu's apology was worthless in Li Zongjio's eyes. When the carriage left his sight, Han Wuxiu stood up. The murderous aura on his body was so condensed that it was about to overflow from his eyes. Bastard, who was the one who dropped my saber on the ground? I had to search for it on the ground for a long time. Han Wuxiu roared angrily. The executive envoys around him immediately understood. Han Wuxiu meant that he had accidentally dropped his saber on the ground. That was why he had to search for it on the ground for so long. It's my fault. The wind and sand on the road were too strong and covered the blade. I'll send someone to clean up the wind and sand immediately. However, there was someone who reacted quickly and immediately went up to flatter Han Wuxiu. Under such circumstances, it was considered as giving Han Wuxiu a way out. Otherwise, there would be so many troublesome matters here. Just the things that happened today alone were enough to make Han Wuxiu feel better. It was enough for them to be targeted in all kinds of ways. Given Han Wuxiu's narrow-mindedness, he would definitely not let them off. Han Wuxiu stood up and looked at Li Zongjio's departing figure in the carriage. He clenched his fists so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. In the future, inform me of his whereabouts in advance. I don't want to see him again, Han Wuxiu said in a deep voice. Even the veins on his forehead were about to explode. After he gave the order, his subordinates finally knew how powerful Li Zongjio was. It was really shocking that he could make Han Wuxiu retreat like this. Before he found a way to deal with Li Zongjio, Han Wuxiu would not come into contact with Li Zongjio again. Han Wuxiu was not a fool. Before he understood the situation, he would definitely lose his life if he acted rashly. Continue the interrogation. Don't let anyone go. After Han Wuxiu finished speaking, he flicked his sleeves and left. However, today's matter couldn't be hidden in the huge sacred flame royal city. In the carriage, Xiao Zhao was also looking at Li Zongjio. He was both grateful and worried for Li Zongjio. However, in the end, he mustered up his courage and thanked Li Zongjio for standing up for Li Zongjio, who knew that Li Zongjio would just casually wave his hand. It's fine. The two of them did not speak. The carriage stopped at the entrance of the relay station. Li Zongjio personally filled in the address before sending the letter out. At the same time, he also filled in the address of the manor that he owned. In addition, he also sent a letter to his mother in Guanxi town. He did not have the chance to show filial piety to the two elders in his previous life. In this life, he naturally had to show them filial piety. Otherwise, he would only have such a powerful strength. In an empty manner. In that case, your entire being would be in a state of emptiness. This would undoubtedly be a very lonely and miserable thing. After sending out the two letters, Li Zongjio sat in Xiao Zhao's carriage and returned to the entrance of the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor. After bidding farewell to Xiao Zhao, he was about to turn around and enter the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor when he heard someone calling out to him from behind. Moreover, this person's tone was extremely enthusiastic. Brotherly, please wait. Brotherly, please wait. Li Zongjio turned around and saw a familiar figure running towards him. It was Zhao Jingxian from the Four Seas Medicine Manor. When did he have such a close relationship with this guy? He actually called him brotherly. Oh, it's you. What's the matter? Why were there so many things happening every day? Li Zongjio was a little annoyed. Now, he just wanted to cultivate properly. However, it seemed that he did not have the time to do so. In the Heavenly Star Medicine Manor, there was a 5 elements Yuan Tower. Therefore, Li Zongjio planned to cultivate in the 5 elements Yuan Tower for a long time. The denser the Yuan energy in the 5 elements Yuan Tower, the more expensive it was. Only those who were extremely wealthy would cultivate in the 5 elements Yuan Tower for a long time. Chapter 454. Hee, brotherly, don't be nervous. I came to look for you because I have something good for you. There was a blunder in the last auction. Didn't the auction of the Compassionate Travel Sex stone tablet get messed up? This time, the Zhao family is also keeping a low profile and is preparing to repeat the auction. Moreover, they will only invite specific people. This time, it's an invitation system. If you are happy, I will get you a spot. You got a slot, Zhao Jingxian said with a mysterious expression. It seemed to be a very convenient thing for Li Zongjio. However, when Li Zongjio heard that it was just a lousy thing, he didn't want to waste his time. Therefore, Li Zongjio directly waved his hand. Sell it to someone else. I don't have time. Li Zongjio was only slightly interested in the Compassionate Travel Sex stone tablet. However, he had a lot of things to do now, so he didn't have time to participate in the auction. If it was really something precious, then it wouldn't be difficult for him to find someone to buy it or directly snatch it from someone else. Li Zongjio was still confident about this. If it still didn't work, then he would steal it. In his previous life, this evil lord had done all sorts of sneaky things. He had done a lot of things. As long as it was something that was beneficial to him, Li Zongjio would do it no matter what it was. Hey, wait a minute. In order to make up for the last time's lack of hospitality, how about this? If it's an item in the auction this time, I can help you waive the handling fee for 3 of them. The reason why the auction house made money was because of the handling fee. If the buyer succeeded in the auction, they would have to pay 10% of the price as a handling fee. On the seller's side, they would also take 15% to 20% as a handling fee. Of course, this was also judged based on the final transaction price. Just by providing a person and venue to help auction, they could receive at least 25% of the original value of each item. This was the high return of the auction house. Every auction house had a different standard of handling fees. However, the bigger the auction, the higher the handling fee. This was because the service was perfect and the target audience was different. It was very likely that an item that cost 100,000 gold coins would be auctioned off at a higher level. If the rich were in a good mood, they would directly bid 1,000,000 or 800,000 gold coins for the item. Moreover, most rich people didn't have good tempers, so there would often be some short-term competition. As soon as they opened their mouths, the price would go up. Therefore, after many things were sold at a sky-high price, many situations would occur. Even if the handling fee was a little high, they would accept it. It was better than secretly putting it up for sale in the market and no one was interested in it for a long time. I'm not short of money, Li Zongjio said directly. Indeed, with his current strength, not to mention the more than 4 billion purple yuan in cash, the pills in his hand could be casually exchanged for a large amount of wealth. Alchemists who truly knew how to refine pills did not lack money, but only needed the herbs and the mood. If they were in a bad mood, they wouldn't want to practice alchemy. Usually, most of the powerful alchemists wouldn't practice alchemy easily. If they accidentally failed once, it would add another stroke to their alchemy career. Zhao Jingxian couldn't believe it. He didn't expect that even this move couldn't stop Li Zongjio. Seeing that Li Zongjio was about to turn and leave, Zhao Jingxian immediately pulled Li Zongjio back. Brotherly, come over here. As he spoke, Zhao Jingxian also pulled Li Zongjio to the side. That sneaky look of his would make anyone who saw him wonder what he was trying to say. Come, just come over here. Come? Zhao Jingxian didn't allow any explanation and pulled Li Zongjio to the side. This is a top secret. I like you, so I'll leak some information to you this time. Zhao Jingxian first looked around carefully, then leaned in front of Li Zongjio and whispered. According to our current appraisal, this stone tablet is very likely the Compassionate Travel Sect's Inner Sect Heart Sutra. Inner Sect Heart Sutra? Li Zongjio couldn't help but be surprised when he heard this. If that was really the case, then the Zhao family was going to make a fortune. In a sect at the level of the Compassionate Travel Sect, this kind of Inner Sect Heart Sutra was often divided into the Inner Sect and the Outer Sect. Only by truly becoming an Inner Sect disciple could one be considered the successor of this sect and come into contact with extremely core things. For this reason, as long as it was an Inner Sect item, it was basically an excellent item. This kind of Heart Sutra was the cultivation method of the Compassionate Travel Sect's Inner Sect disciple. Its value could be said to be supreme. It was even the foundation of the Compassionate Travel Sect. Li Zongjio had reached the Evil Lord realm in his previous life and had consulted all kinds of Heart Sutras. After all, he had to embark on this path of pilgrimage. However, sects like the Compassionate Travel Sect had disappeared for a long time at that time. Although there were still a small number of people from the Compassionate Travel Sect in the current world, Li Zongjio didn't care at that time because there was no need for the Compassionate Travel Sect to decline. However, when he heard that it was the Inner Sect Heart Sutra, Li Zongjio was also interested. After all, the reason why the Compassionate Travel Sect couldn't get up for half a day was because they lost the Inner Sect Heart Sutra, so their results were mediocre. They could barely squeeze into this first-rate force. However, a first-rate force like this was, in fact, on thin ice. Just the slightest thing was enough to destroy the entire sect. Either they were strong enough that no one dared to provoke them, or they were weak enough that no one cared about them. In that case, they might be able to live longer. Oh, since it's the Inner Sect Heart Sutra, I want to take a look. In his previous life, Li Zongjio also wanted to find the Compassionate Travel Sect's Inner Sect Heart Sutra, but it had long disappeared. How could he wait for Li Zongjio? However, after his rebirth, he actually had the chance to come into contact with the Inner Sect Heart Sutra, so Li Zongjio was also very interested. As expected, he took the bait. Zhao Jingxian heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Li Zongjio's agreement. Ever since the previous incident, he had already faintly sensed that Li Zongjio was almost like an otherworldly expert. In terms of strength, he had never seen Li Zongjio fail. In terms of alchemy, he had defeated countless experts. In terms of wealth, he was already an alchemy expert. How could he care about a little money? Any force that he joined would be able to offer an attractive price. In terms of power, don't forget that last time, Li Zongjio cursed Yilan Tian and punched Han Wuxiu. He didn't even put Sima Xingyan in his eyes. There was almost nothing to be afraid of. In terms of beauty, he probably didn't lack. Even a beauty like Qi Yanran was secretly flirting with him. He was simply a winner in life. If he wanted to attract Li Zongjio, he had to take out enough weight. Chapter 455. In fact, this was no longer a secret. In order to attract more interested people to come, they had already secretly released some news. Otherwise, how could these people obediently take the bait and obediently take out their wallets? No matter what the situation was, these things had to be sold. In the eyes of the Zhao family, these things were just commodities. Seeing that Li Zongjio had taken the bait, Zhao Jingxian heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. It was not easy to deal with such a powerful person. 8 o'clock tonight at the Cool Breeze restaurant. Don't go to the wrong place. Also, here is the admission ticket. After handing the ticket to Li Zongjio, Zhao Jingxian waved his hand and left. Obviously, he had other things to deal with. As long as these two people were present, he could definitely arrange for them to meet. It was not difficult at all. If I arrange a VIP box for this guy and Qi Yanran, this guy will have to thank me. TSK, that is Qi Yanran. Oh my god, I don't even dare to imagine what she looks like. Zhao Jingxian was very excited as he thought about it. However, as a playboy with dreams and ideals, he also wanted to make a career for himself. He was not the same as others. Moreover, Zhao Jingxian now had so many resources in his hands. If it's 8 o'clock, then there are still 5 hours left. I'll go and cultivate first. The matter of the Azure Dragon Gang had been handed over to Yinghu. It would not be easy for this guy to escape from the Howling Moon Wolf King. The reason why the Howling Moon Wolf King followed him was to complete the task better. If Yinghu could not deal with the other party, then the Howling Moon Wolf King would have to deal with it personally. In addition, the matter of the casino was handed over to Taifai. The only thing that needed to be dealt with was the Yi family. However, the Yi family had not been able to make any waves in the past few days. The internal situation of the Yi family alone was enough for them to deal with for a period of time. Once this kind of family collapsed, it would definitely rise again. Emperor Xingyan had already expressed his regret and ordered the Special Envoy Department to thoroughly investigate this matter. Apart from that, he also ordered the officials to select the head of the judicial division. It was still very difficult to find such a suitable candidate. Now, everyone wanted this position, but at the same time, everyone was afraid of it. Similarly, many people wanted to deal with the Yi family. After all, Yi Lantian of the Yi clan had a lot of evidence in his hands. Such a matter was enough to make the officials fear him. No matter what, they had to know what the remaining members of the Yi clan knew. Since the most dangerous person, Yi Lantian, was already dead and most of the Yi clan's bloodline was also dead, the huge Yi clan was now only controlled by a woman. If she was not careful, she would fall into a state of eternal damnation. Therefore, the current Yi clan did not have the time to seek revenge on Li Zongjio. At the Special Envoy Department, no one would believe that Li Zongjio was the one who killed Yi Lantian. It was because of Li Zongjio's arrogance and insolence that they believed that Li Zongjio would not do such a thing. At the same time, they knew that Li Zongjio was just a petty person who was intoxicated by success. There were many people like him in Royal City, but they usually did not have a good ending. At the same time, they would not last long. Li Zongjio peacefully cultivated in the 5 Elements Yuan Tower for a total of 5 hours. His body's condition was also at the peak of his cultivation. If nothing unexpected happened, Li Zongjio had already planned to challenge the Genius Tower in 7 days. He should be able to pass all the checkpoints in the remaining time. When he was almost done, it was almost time for the holidays. As for the 7 Stars Fire Room, Li Zongjio would also take some time to settle it. The reason why he agreed to the 7 Stars Fire Room was because he wanted to establish a relationship with the biggest yuan weapon merchant. Secondly, the Furious Dragon capturing Fury was extremely powerful. When the time came, he must equip the Li clan with some. It would strengthen his own defensive power. The current Li clan, with the help of a Yuan stone mine and the Fog Snow Pill sect, was developing like a raging fire. Within a radius of 100 miles, the Li clan was faintly showing signs of becoming the #1 clan. Even within the Soaring Cloud City, due to the assistance of the 3 great experts, the number of territories they had conquered was also extremely large. It could be said that they were quite fast and had such momentum. In less than half a year, they would be able to become the #1 sect within 1,000 miles. They even had the ability to make Luoxia City a true 3rd-tier city. The evaluation of a city was actually related to the prosperity of the city itself. If the city could pay high taxes, or if it had rich industries that could bring in a large amount of income, in addition to the establishment of the Merchant Union and the Medicine Union, it would quickly become a 3rd-tier city. In that case, as a 3rd-class city, it would enjoy more policies and so on. Even some resources would easily fall into the hands of Luoxia City. For example, some large-scale competitions would be held, or it would become an image city and then wantonly publicize it. In this way, the income of the city would definitely soar. The difficult part was how to take the first step, which was to directly gather all the power and promote development. Night fell. On the surface, the Holy Flame Royal City was still flourishing and bustling with people and carriages. For such a large city, the loss of the Yi clan and the addition of the Yi clan were not the same. The influence of the Yi clan was really not that great. Those places that were once under the control of the Yi clan would also be replaced by others. This was the charm of Royal City. Even a powerful overlord like the Yi clan was facing the possibility of being replaced at any time. Just like that, without any warning, he disappeared without a trace. Li Zongjio set out half an hour earlier. When he arrived at the Cool Breeze restaurant, he found it was still early. Therefore, he decided to have a drink and a meal in the tavern on the side. A pot of wine and 2 plates of beef. After casually finding a seat and sitting down, he heard a conversation behind him. "Granny, what do you think if I change into my night clothes and steal the things directly? They can't catch me anyway. What do you think?" "No, there are so many experts in the Cool Breeze Inn. Even if you fart, you will attract attention. But we don't have so much money. I heard that the entrance fee is 100 gold coins. We even borrowed money from the neighboring sect to come here." "It's okay, Granny has a way. Don't tell me it's that trick again." As soon as she finished speaking, she heard the sound of a bowl shattering behind her. "Ouch, the noodles are killing me. It's going to poison me to death." Chapter 456. In the hall, he saw a figure lying sideways on the ground. Beside him was a broken bowl with some unfinished noodles in it. The delicately dressed young lady at the side seemed to be scared out of her wits. "Granny, what happened to you, Granny? Granny, don't die." Li Zongjio turned around to take a look at the comical scene. The old lady was clearly a Yuan monarch elite, but it was really surprising that she would do such a thing. As for the young lady, he could also feel a surge of power sealed in her body. If it was released, it would definitely be a terrifying force. It might even be stronger than the old lady. However, at this moment, she was kneeling beside the old lady. She was shaking the old lady as she cried and complained. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Judging from her appearance, she seemed to have gone through many rehearsals. "Oh, my lord, please don't malign our shop. Our shop has always been well behaved and the noodles are clean. How could anyone die from eating them? Hurry up and get up, or I will report this to the authorities." Because of the old lady's actions, many people around them put down their chopsticks and looked over. The innkeeper's explanation made the old lady spit out a mouthful of blood on the ground. "Look, my granny is about to be poisoned to death. Please don't eat the food here. Granny, hang in there. When the authorities come, they will definitely uphold justice for you." It had to be said that the young lady at the side seemed to like acting more and was even more immersed in her role. She was crying like a pear blossom in the rain. When people saw her like this, they no longer had any doubts and started to whisper to each other. At the same time, they hurriedly spat out the food in their mouths. Seeing that the surrounding guests were about to go berserk, the innkeeper was also anxious. "Why you still in a daze? Do you really want to see my granny die here? Hurry up and give us 500 gold coins and take us to the medical hall to see a doctor. If anything happens to my granny, I will ask my granny not to let you off even if she becomes a ghost." The young lady lifted her head and said, after hearing the girl's words, how could the innkeeper not know that she was clearly here to ask for money? "I'll give it to you. You too, hurry up and send him to the medical center. Hurry up and carry him away. Be careful not to hurt him." The shopkeeper also admitted his defeat. This kind of thing didn't happen often, so he could consider it as spending money to avoid disaster. He took out 500 gold coins and handed it to the young girl. When the 2 waiters carried the old woman out, the old woman easily shook them off and landed on the ground. "I can walk on my own." The 2 of them took the money and disappeared from the street. "Hee, there's no need to be alarmed. Relax and enjoy your meal. Sorry for disturbing everyone. Every table will be given a stack of peanuts." Just like that, a stack of peanuts appeared on Li Zongjio's table. However, the actions of the 2 people just now really opened Li Zongjio's eyes. With their cultivation, they wouldn't have ended up in such a state no matter what they did. They actually used such a method to swindle money. They were really too talented. Nothing was too strange in this big world. Li Zongjio only paid a little attention to this strange pair of grandmother and granddaughter. After all, being able to seal such a huge force in the young girl's body was not a simple act in itself. There were still many secrets on these two people. However, as long as they didn't encounter Li Zongjio, there was basically no problem. Everyone minded their own business. Half an hour later, Li Zongjio also arrived at a VIP room under the guidance of the waiter. The auction this time was held in this VIP room. The hall area was not open to the public. When Li Zongjio walked in, he saw a figure in the private room with her back to him. From the back, he could see that she was quite beautiful. Li Zongjio was stunned for a moment. He turned around and said to the waiter beside him, "I don't need any special service. Let her go." On the spot, Li Zongjio thought that Zhao Jingxian had acted on his own initiative and arranged for a beauty to serve him in this private room. Many influential people also had this kind of hobby. It was as if they didn't have a beauty by their side when they went out, they wouldn't know how to eat. "It's me." Qi Yanran naturally heard Li Zongjio's words. She turned around and glared at Li Zongjio. Then, she waved at the waiter beside her. "There's nothing for you to do here." Li Zongjio recognized Qi Yanran. He had a deep impression of her. She was Qi Shaohun's daughter. In the future tragedy of the Qi family, Qi Yanran must have a part to play in it. Or perhaps, Qi Yanran had already been devoured by the blood medicine bug without the appearance of Li Zongjio. She simply couldn't witness the tragedy of the Qi family. "What's the matter?" When Li Zongjio saw Qi Yanran, he knew why Zhao Jingxian invited him so eagerly. Obviously, it was Qi Yanran's idea. He didn't expect that such a thing would happen. He, the dignified Li Zongjio, was actually tricked. "I want to ask you for a favor." Qi Yanran bit her lips with her pure white teeth. She seemed a little embarrassed. However, since he was already here, there was no need to hide it. "You mean the blood poison in your body?" Li Zongjio said with a smile. "Why is the whole world giving me money? If you want me to treat your illness, it's not impossible." 10 billion purple yuan. Li Zongjio said. No matter who came, the price would be 10 billion purple yuan. Except for Shui Yu, who gave him a discount and only asked for 1 billion purple yuan. Now that he thought about it, it was a bit of a loss. However, when it came to 10 billion, Li Zongjio remembered that Shu had also come to find him. If he couldn't gather 10 billion purple yuan, then Li Zongjio wouldn't help him. 10 billion? Even Qi Yanran was shocked by Li Zongjio's big mouth. It was simply an exorbitant demand. "I'll be honest with you. If you don't have the money, then forget it." Li Zongjio was also lying on the sofa, waiting for the auction to start. "Okay, 10 billion purple yuan, I'll give it to you tomorrow." Qi Yanran also sat down. Although 10 billion purple yuan was not a small amount for Qi Yanran, she wouldn't be as embarrassed as Shu. As long as Qi Yanran asked, she would definitely be able to take it out. After all, Qi Yanran's value was far more than 10 billion purple yuan. However, what made Qi Yanran disappointed was that she didn't expect that Li Zongjio was just a money grubber. If a practitioner only practiced for money, then it would be difficult for him to achieve great success in his life. In the early stage of cultivation, he might be able to lead others by relying on his own talent. However, in the later stage of cultivation, it required extraordinary willpower and unyielding integrity. Otherwise, it would be easy to be damaged on the road. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.